Chapter 729. Since there was a town at the foot of the mountain, there would naturally be permanent residents. Jun Changxiao had already decided to move all the villagers of Qingyang village there and give them permanent residency. During the time when they transmigrated to the Falling Star continent, the sect was poor, and it was difficult to even find food. They would definitely not be mistreated if they went to the village to eat and drink every day. Moreover, the family members of the sect's disciples could also apply to move in. Not only would it be convenient to visit, but it would also allow the family to reunite during festivals. Humanizing. This was one of the core tenets of Jun Changxiao when he established the sect. The construction of a town was a big project. Even with the help of Peppa the wild boar and the disciples, it would still take time. Jun Changxiao was naturally not in a hurry when he handed over everything to Li Qingyang and Ning Duxing. Other than occasionally taking a look, he spent most of his time recuperating. A few days later, the entrance examination of the sect of all times began. This time, Jun Changxiao gave a clear recruitment quota, which was just enough to gather 20,000 members. Supplement less, supplement more. Because of the battle of dragons and tigers, and because of the advertisement, the youths who came were more outstanding in all aspects. Many of them passed the first round of the gravity assessment. Sigh. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "There is no limit to the number of people. They can all be accepted. And if there is a town, these youths who have good qualifications, but have to be eliminated can stay temporarily and be recruited after the upper limit is raised." Therefore, it was necessary to build a town at the foot of the mountain. After the second round of assessment, according to the patriarch's wishes, the Ning brothers selected a total of 20,000 members. As for the youths who were not recruited, they were first appeased and allowed to stay in Qingyang village, or Qingyang town temporarily. Ding! Ding! One by one, the disciples were stamped and became a disciple. Jun Changxiao heard an endless stream of notifications. Sect member 200,002,0000. Sect contribution points 200,002,0000. When the last youth became a disciple of the sect of all times, all the statistics were completely fixed. Jun Changxiao, who had obsessive-compulsive disorder, took the initiative to buy materials, such as forging rooms and aptitude elixirs, before the opening examination. Therefore, all the members and contribution points were full. Ding! Sect mission activated. After the notifications ended, a new mission was issued. In terms of difficulty, it was obviously more difficult than before. However, it was not difficult to complete it as the sect's disciples had become stronger. Some of the quests were even related to the town he was building, such as how many days he had to work as a bricklayer, or how many bricks he had to move. I have to continue clearing the contribution points. After completing the sect mission, he would definitely receive contribution points and achievement points. Therefore, Jun Changxiao opened up the system store and decided to spend 10,000 contribution points to clear up some space in advance. What should I buy? After pondering for a long time, Zhang Xian still couldn't come to a decision. The main reason was that most of the goods in the advanced shopping mall were useful, so it was difficult for him to choose what to buy. Why don't we buy a modified RPG rocket launcher? Lord Changxiao muttered. He had been eyeing this item for a long time. Since it came from the advanced mall and had the words divine modification, it was definitely more powerful than the field artillery. Didn't you say that it would be very difficult for firearms to adapt to the Falling Star continent in the future? Why would the advanced shop still have rocket launchers? Jun Chang asked with a smile. The system was speechless. The firearms I am talking about are limited to firearms, not artillery-type heavy weapons. Jun Changxiao said. That's why I have to buy it. Ding! Host has spent 10,000 contribution points and obtained God-modified RPG rocket launcher X1. It has been transported into the space ring. Ding! Sect contribution points 100,002,0000. Schwa! Jun Changxiao took out the God-modified RPG rocket launcher and placed it on his shoulder. He leaned his eyes on the aiming device and muttered, "Men should play with cannons." He took out the crystal nuclei and began to condense the cannonball. In the end, it took 20 crystal nuclei to condense one. Field cannons don't even need so many. If this rocket launcher is fired, it will definitely be very powerful, Jun Changshao said with a burning gaze. He did not press the launch button. Instead, he called Xiao Ziji over and said, "This is the latest model of firearms. Come and try it." The God-modified RPG rocket launcher could not only be used by himself, but also by his disciples. This was the main reason why Jun Changshao bought it. "Patriarch." Xiao Ziji took it and said weakly, "Is the recoil big?" "Not big," Jun Changshao said. "Good." Xiao Ziji took it and imitated the patriarch. He placed it on his shoulder and said, "Patriarch, where do you want to hit?" Jun Changshao pointed to a mountain peak in the distance and said, "We need more stone for the construction of the town. You are responsible for shooting it down." After saying that, he took 100 steps back. Xiao Ziji was focused on the mountain peak and did not notice that the patriarch had slipped away in advance. Pa! Bang! The sound of the explosion was so loud that it seemed as if the space was trembling. The faces of the disciples who were cultivating in the sect changed slightly. They looked up in the direction of the voice and saw a stream of light bursting out, leaving behind cloud-like traces wherever it passed. Boom! The mountain peak suddenly collapsed, rolling up dust that covered the sky. This was not dust, this was stone powder. Under the bombardment of the rocket launcher, not only was the entire mountain flattened, even the smallest stone was turned into powder. Ka! The space suddenly cracked and then spread out. Seeing this, the Sect of All Time's disciples' mouths gradually opened and their eyes widened. As expected, Jun Changshao said, "It can shatter space." The introduction mentioned that the God-modified RPG rocket launcher had the ability to shatter space. Of course, the biggest feature of the God-modified shopping mall was its special effects. The special effect of the God-modified RPG rocket launcher was called Precision Strike. As long as it was activated and locked onto the target, they would be punished regardless of whether they flew or escaped to the ends of the earth. "Wait," Jun Changshao said, "I've sinned." At this time, he realized that his disciple was no longer there. The area where he was standing just now had sunk in by several feet. At the same time, there was white smoke rising. Plop! On the training field in the inner courtyard, Xiao Ziji hugged the God-modified RPG rocket launcher and fell straight down. Immediately, he lay flat on the ground and said weakly, I knew it would be like this, The evil man in Death Valley felt a weak vibration in the air and muttered, "There are human experts fighting?" "King." A spiritual beast with an arm walked over and reported, "I've investigated. The one who killed the fire dragon is a sect called the Sect of All Times." The evil man spread his legs and supported his chin with his palm. With a cold gaze he said, "What's their level?" Fifth rate. "Fifth rate," he smiled coldly and said, "With my current strength, it won't be a problem to get rid of them." "King," the spiritual beast whispered, "the Sect of All Times is not simple." "I heard." The evil man forcefully interrupted, "Hurry and contact more people. After I get rid of this trash sect, I'll recuperate and declare war on the humans." "Yes," the spiritual beast said. Whoosh. The evil man stood up and left Death Valley naked. "You dare to steal my eggs? I'll crush your eggs." "Kakik, Sect of All Times." Xiao Ziji came back to his senses and touched the God-modified RPG rocket launcher. He said happily, "Patriarch, this gun is very powerful. In terms of AoE damage, it was not as good as field cannons, but its power was not inferior. In fact, it was even stronger. Most importantly, it was very light and easy to carry around." Jun Changshao said, "You can take it first. In the future, if any enemy dares to cause trouble for the Sect of All Times, just give them a shot." "Okay." Xiao Ziji nodded. He was eager to find a living target to test. It would be best if the target was not weak. Chapter 730. At the foot of the mountain, the construction of the town was in full swing. As the sect's mission involved this aspect, many disciples came to help. The scene of the disciples chatting and laughing as they worked together really revealed a thick sense of joy and warmth. Huff! Yang Yuhua rubbed his hands. and carried the thousands of bricks on his back. Kacha! Just as he took 2 steps, a strange sound came from behind him. He turned his head to the side and saw a man with purple hair and a slender figure walking over. The bricks along the way were crushed to pieces. When the busy disciples heard the commotion, they all turned around and looked over. Their expressions immediately became interesting. That man was actually naked. As the scene was very indecent, please fill in the mosaic for him. Oh my God! Wasn't he ashamed to be naked in broad daylight? Didn't he have any sense of shame? Awesome, Su Xiaoma said in admiration. He used to think about how it would feel to walk on the street naked, but he never had the courage to do it. Now someone actually dared to do something he didn't dare to do. What a pervert! The evil man said coldly. Is this the sect of all times? Yang Yuhua's mouth twitched. Friend, although the weather has been cool recently, you don't have to come out naked, right? Swoosh! The evil-looking man suddenly took a step forward and threw out a punch. Boom! The sound of the punch was heard and dust flew. Yang Yuhua still stood on the spot. He blocked his face with his palm and said coldly, Are you here to pick a fight? The evil man was surprised. To be able to take a punch from me, you're not bad. Swoosh! Another punch was thrown. This time, the strength was much stronger than before. Although Yang Yuhua could see it, he realized that the other party's strength had increased greatly. He hurriedly used cloud treading steps to retreat. TSK. The evil man's punch missed and he smiled sinisterly. You're quite capable. Boom! Yang Yuhua threw down the thousands of bricks and said with a sullen face, Senior brother, someone is here to pick a fight. Swoosh! Su Xiaoma was the first to rush over. Brat, did you take the wrong medicine? How dare you come to the sect of all times to pick a fight? Long Xiang, Song Xianzhou, and the others who were helping out at the construction site also gathered around. If the disciples of the sects participating in the Dragon Tiger contest saw this, they would surely feel despair, as they knew that these were a bunch of monsters. However, the evil man said coldly, A bunch of trash. Hey! Su Xiaoma clenched his fists and said, How dare you scold us? It was very rare for someone to come to the sect to look for trouble. Today a nude pervert had suddenly appeared. He was definitely going to teach him a good lesson. Brothers, Su Xiaoma said in a clear voice, let's capture him together. All right. Everyone immediately unleashed their cultivation and swarmed forward. Powerful auras instantly filled the entire construction site. Boom! Boom! Not long after, Su Xiaoma and the others unlocked all kinds of new positions. They flew out gorgeously, and then fell to the ground in a sorry state. Even Yang Yuhua, who had a strong physical body, staggered back dozens of steps, and then squatted on the ground. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. It can't be. This naked guy is so strong. Especially when he attacked. The bone-chilling baleful aura that exploded out made the disciples feel as if they were fighting with an extremely powerful ferocious beast. Although the evil man had taken down all the disciples of the sect of all times, his face was filled with displeasure. He had been sealed for too long, and his strength had deteriorated too much. Otherwise, he would have easily killed this group of trash. In fact, he didn't know that if it were any other martial artist, they would have been killed long ago. However, the disciples of the sect of all times were very resistant. Even if they were sent flying, they would only be injured and not in any danger. Elder Jiang, Su Xiaoma, who was clutching his stomach, said telepathically, Someone is here to pick a fight. Quickly come out and kill him. Shua! Shua! Jiang Ye and the Ning brothers had already heard the commotion. They flew out of the sect and landed on the construction site. Seeing the disciples being beaten to a pulp, their eyes flashed with anger. Go! Boom! 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 Huff! At the entrance of the training tower, Xiao Ziji walked out and took a deep breath. He would come here to train for a period of time every day. As he had gradually gotten used to it, he didn't feel tired at all. Junior brother Xiao, Tianqi hurried over and said, A naked guy came to the sect to pick a fight and injured senior brother Su and the others. Quickly go and take a look. Shua! Xiao Ziji hurriedly flew over. He wondered in his heart, is the naked guy a person's name? Tianqi didn't follow him. Instead, he merged into the training tower. He wanted to continue calling for people, such as eldest senior sister, Yi Xingchen, and He Wudi who were cultivating inside. As long as he gathered the strongest combat power of the sect, he would definitely be able to torture that pervert until he cried and screamed. Boom! Dang dang dang! At the construction site at the foot of the mountain, the Ning brothers and the evil man exchanged 2 blows. They staggered back with a serious expression. The aura of this naked guy was really strange. His strength was probably at least at Wu Huang's level. If they wanted to get rid of him, they would probably need the patriarch's 2 servants. You guys! The evil man grabbed his hair and broke down. Why are you guys so tough? He was angry and furious. He had an absolute advantage in strength, but he could only send these humans flying. Not a single one of them was killed. No matter how weak I am, I can't be weak to this extent. Or could it be that in this world, the humans' understanding of martial arts has improved, and they can have defenses that are not inferior to the beast race? Damn it! The evil man roared angrily. His eyes flashed red. He immediately rushed in front of Jiangya and gathered his most violent strength to attack. Peng, the ground instantly caved in, but he didn't hit his target, because a solid earth wall appeared in front of him. Xiao Ziji stood in front of Jiangya and said, "This guy's strength is so strong." Of course, he also understood the meaning of the naked guy, so it wasn't his name. He was really naked. Peng. The earth wall collapsed. Xiao Ziji took a few steps back before he could stabilize his body. The arms that he used to support the earth wall were in pain. You can even block this. The evil man looked like he was about to collapse. Even Wu Huang might not be able to block his attack in anger. A guy with the aura of a martial king was able to stabilize his body. This was too much of a blow to his self-esteem. King, don't cry. Don't be discouraged. It's not that you aren't strong enough. It's that your opponent is too monstrous. Junior brother Xiao, Su Xiaoma, who was lying in the distance, said, "This guy is a bit strong. Hurry and inform the patriarch." No need. Xiao Ziji's mind moved, and the god-modified RPG rocket launcher appeared. Then he placed it on his shoulder and said coldly, "Leave this guy to me." Ho ho. A thick earth element aura spread out and wrapped around his legs like vines. Then it connected with the ground. His entire body seemed to have turned into a fort. The recoil of the god-modified RPG rocket launcher was too strong. Xiao Ziji didn't dare to fire directly, so he used the earth element to stabilize his body. This move was very tricky. Jijiji. The evil man laughed strangely and said, "Stupid human, you think you can hurt this king with a piece of wood?" Shwa. He rushed over barefoot. His hands gathered a violent aura, causing the construction site to become abnormally oppressive. Xiao Ziji held the god-modified RPG rocket launcher and waited until the other party rushed to the area where it could explode without hurting his fellow sect members. Then he decisively pulled the trigger. "Hurt my fellow sect members, then accept the death penalty." Peng, the shell shot out, causing ripples in the air and billowing white smoke. Xiao Ziji, who had layers of earth element support, only leaned back and didn't fly out. However, the evil man's pupils suddenly shrank. The moment the shell burst out, a strong sense of danger surged in his heart. At that moment, the scene of him being tortured by the 5 Wu Sheng and being sealed appeared in front of his eyes. Am I going to... Boom! A deafening sound rang in the construction site. The violent energy wantonly swept away Su Xiaoma and the others who were lying in the distance. Jun Changshao, who heard the sound, got up from the chair in the study room. He took off the mask on his face and said in surprise, "Sinful Self fired the cannon." Ho ho. In the explosion area, the wind whistled. Su Xiaoma, who was swept away, stood up with difficulty. Looking at the dust covering the sky, the corner of his mouth twitched and said, "Junior brother Xiao, this thing of yours is more powerful than a field cannon." Amazing. Jiangye and Ning Duxing said in shocking unison. They were the closest to the explosion and could clearly feel the power of the explosion just now. It was definitely at the level of an emperor. Ka ka ka. The soil surrounding Xiao Zuiji's body quickly crumbled. He pressed the smoking barrel against the ground and breathed in large mouthfuls of air. Although he used his attribute to offset the recoil, his body still couldn't bear it, and his whole body seemed very weak. Gradually, the dust dissipated, and everything became clear. The naked evil man stood in the same place. His whole body was charred black, and his hair was still smoking. Then he fell to the ground with his eyes rolled back, and white foam flowed out of his mouth. No way, Su Xiaoma said in surprise. He didn't die. Such a strong explosion was enough to blow the target into pieces, but this guy was only in a sorry state and fainted. It was incredible. Xiao Ziji was also stunned. What's going on? At this moment, Jun Changshao rushed down from the mountain. Patriarch. Xiao Ziji pointed at the unconscious evil man and said, someone came to the sect to cause trouble and injured many of our fellow disciples. So this disciple directly opened fire. Jun Changshao had already walked over. When he saw the guy who was blasted beyond recognition, he said in surprise, he didn't explode into thin air. Patriarch. Jiangye said solemnly. When this guy attacked, he emitted an aura like a fierce beast. His physical body should be very strong. Jun Changshao said with a cold face. He dared to come to the sect of all times to cause trouble, and even injured my disciple. This guy is tired of living. Come, bring him back to the sect. Yes. In this way, the naked evil man was dragged up the sect of all times like a dead dog by several disciples of the sect of all times. The most tragic thing was that the back of his head hit the stairs when he went up. Death Valley. The spirit beast was actively mobilizing its kind from other provinces and counties, and it was full of imagination. Although we failed the first time, the king will definitely lead our beast race to become the ruler of the falling star continent this time. Chapter 731. The evil man and the disciple of the sect of all times fought and destroyed the construction site. Standing in front of the ruins, Peppa the wild boar cried sadly. The hard work of the past few days had gone down the drain. Now it had to do it all over again. How sad was that? If the bald man hadn't been brought into the sect and locked up, it would have stomped on him to vent its displeasure. Patriarch. In the main hall, Li Qingyang calculated and said, the damage caused by that guy is about a few 100,000 taels. A few 100,000 taels? Jun Changshao crossed his hands, and his eyes gradually turned cold. He had money, but it did not come from the wind. If he came to cause trouble, he would lose so much money. Despicable guy, Jun Changshao said angrily. If I don't torture you to death, how can I be worthy of the few 100,000 taels that I lost? In the sturdy prison cell, Zhao Daodu shrank in the corner and looked at the charred man who had been thrown here for a while. His mouth twitched slightly. So, he was not the one who was tortured the most. So, the sect of all times had even more terrifying torture methods. From the looks of this guy, could it be that he had been roasted on a fire for a long time? Sigh. Zhao Daodu sighed, and a trace of sympathy appeared in his eyes. Creak. The prison door opened, and a ray of sunlight shone in. Zhao Daodu hurriedly closed his eyes and said sadly, torturing me again? Because he pretended to be Jun Patriarch. He was locked up in the sect of all times for a long time. He was bullied by the disciples for no reason. Now he had developed a good habit of being submissive. Jun Changshao walked in and sat on the prepared chair. He waved his hand and said, hang him up. Yes. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei walked forward and tied the evil man up. Then they pulled the chain and hung him up. If the beasts who were gathering in Death Valley and had the dream of ruling over humans knew that their king was hung in prison, how would they feel? Splash. Cold water was poured over him. The evil-looking man opened his eyes with great difficulty. There was a faint viciousness in his eyes, but he was still weak. Although he didn't die from using his physical body to block the artillery shell, he would definitely be seriously injured. The evil-looking man gradually regained his senses and quickly realized that he was being hung up. There were a few humans standing in front of him, so he shouted angrily, Bastard! Boom! Su Xiaoma's fist landed on his face, and he said, you've become a prisoner, yet you still dare to scold people. The evil-looking man tried his best to turn his face around, his eyes flashing with intense killing intent. It was a pity. Due to his heavy injuries, he was unable to break free from the chains. Jun Changshao said. You destroyed the construction site and caused me to lose so much money. Let's count it as one punch for one tail. Boom. Boom. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei completely let go of each other and bombarded the evil man with their fists. Because the evil man was very resistant to beatings, it felt especially good to hit him. Zhao Daode cowered in the corner, shivering in fear. If it were him, he would have been dead by now after taking a few punches from them. Boom. Boom. After torturing him for half an hour, Su Xiaoma and Li Fei finally stopped, sweating profusely. On the other hand, although the evil-looking man's face was ferocious, he did not faint from the crazy violence. Patriarch. Su Xiaoma gasped and said, This guy is too good at taking a beating. Forcefully resisting the bombardment of the God-modified RPG rocket launcher, he was only charred black, which made Jun Changshao believe that the other party must be a martial cultivator who had developed his physical body to the extreme. The evil-looking man endured the pain and said with difficulty, A group of bastards, how? How can you hurt this king? Although he had been reduced to a prisoner, his inherent nobility would not be lost. This king? Jun Changshao was surprised. According to Jiang Ye's guess, this person should be Wu Huang. Why didn't he call himself this emperor? Why did he call himself this king so modestly? Jun Changshao put on his dazzling sunglasses and activated the aptitude and level prying function. In the end, all the data provided by the other party were question marks. Isn't this guy a martial cultivator? If he wasn't a martial cultivator, how could he have such a strong body? Or was he actually a swordsman, who also paid attention to the tempering of his physical body? Kid. The evil-looking man raised his head with difficulty and said, You're the patriarch of the sect of all times. This was deduced from Su Xiaoma calling him patriarch. That's right, Jun Changshao said calmly. The evil-looking man's eyes suddenly became cold and fierce. He said, Where's this king's egg? Egg? Jun Changshao subconsciously looked at his crotch and said calmly, Isn't it growing on your body? It didn't explode. The evil-looking man said, This king is talking about an egg with a shell. An egg with a shell? Jun Changshao was puzzled by his words. Kid, the evil-looking man said coldly, hand over the egg, and this king will spare your life. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei were instantly amused. This bald man still didn't realize that he was already a prisoner and could be killed at any time? Don't talk nonsense. Jun Changshao's eyes were cold and fierce. He said, Speak, who sent you here? The sect had just won the Dragon Tiger Hegemony competition, and their prestige was unparalleled. For someone to come and cause trouble at this time, it was definitely strange. Could it be the Darkness sect? They had changed their style, and were no longer sneaking around. Instead, they directly sent experts to kill them. They had fought so many times and should know each other's strength. Why did they send such a weak person? This king will say it again, the evil-looking man emphasized. Hand over the egg quickly, otherwise, your sect of all times will become a pile of ruins. Zhao Daodu, who was far away, was full of admiration. He was already a prisoner and hung up. Yet he was still boasting shamelessly. How much courage did that require? Jun Changshao said coldly. Continue beating him. Yes. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei clenched their fists and walked forward again. However, just as they were about to attack, the evil-looking man's eyes suddenly flashed red. A violent aura filled the prison cell. Jun Changshao frowned. The aura that erupted from that guy was completely unlike a human's martial aura. Instead, it was more like a savage beast. The system said, This guy is not human. Not human. Jun Changshao's face was filled with surprise. The evil-looking man, who was surrounded by a terrifying aura, had a twisted expression. He said, How dare you humiliate this king? Then accept your punishment. Huff huff. Streams of light suddenly flew out of his body and flew out of the prison cell through the gaps. This was a signal for help. As long as he could contact his right-hand man, he would definitely lead an army to rescue them. The evil-looking man laughed strangely. How can a small sect like you withstand my hundreds of thousands of beast army? Ga. Suddenly his smile froze. This was because the signal for help had flown out of the prison cell and was about to head to Death Valley. However, it hit the barrier and was completely blocked. What? What was going on? Hey! A voice came from beside his ear. The evil-looking man stiffly lowered his head and saw the patriarch of the sect of all times stop in front of him. He smiled innocently and said, "I heard that you are not human." Chapter 732. Looking at Jun Changxiao's harmless smile, the evil man suddenly shuddered, and a strong ominous feeling surged in his heart. Even when facing the four Wuxia back then, even when being sealed, he did not have such a thought. Could it be, this human is not simple? The noble evil man was fearless and said, "How can I be a lowly human?" After getting the answer, Jun Changxiao's eyes suddenly lit up. Being able to speak human language and take human form, this was definitely a high-level spirit beast. If he could subdue it, it would be good to guard the door. This guy had many contract beasts. However, now that it took the initiative to come to his door, and its strength was comparable to a high-level Wu Huang, how could he not want it? I was wondering. Su Xiaoma suddenly realized. No wonder it can take a beating so well. Beasts had a unique advantage in defense. It was normal for it to not die after taking a direct hit from the cannonball. "Hey," Jun Changxiao said. "The light that flew out just now was a distress signal?" The evil man did not speak. He was quite arrogant just now, but when the signal was not sent out, he immediately became listless. An army of hundreds of thousands of beasts. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and guessed. Could it be that you are also a leader of the beasts, and can mobilize your own kind? Humph. The evil man said coldly. If I send out the signal, your sect of all times will be razed to the ground by an army of hundreds of thousands in less than a day. From these words, Jun Changxiao confirmed his judgment, and the light in his eyes became more and more intense. A spirit beast with subordinates, and it seemed that there were many of them. If he could subdue it, wouldn't he be able to control more beasts? At that time, each member of the Wolf Rider Hall would be equipped with a mount, and they could destroy whoever they did not like. Thinking of this, Jun Changxiao sat on the chair again, crossed his legs and said, "Become my contract beast, and I will spare your life." Contract beast. The evil man laughed, and immediately said with a serious expression, "Beasts will never be slaves." Is that so? Jun Changxiao also smiled. His smile was very sinister. He did not continue to torture the evil man. Instead, he returned to his study and began to think about how to subdue this fellow. It would be perfect if there was a high-rank gold palm ball. Jun Changxiao said to himself. It was a little difficult to subdue humans. However, since it was a beast, he could easily deal with it by throwing a gate palm ball at it. Shwa! Jun Changxiao pulled open the advanced merchant shop and looked carefully. However, he did not find the sect leader ball, so he said helplessly, "What should we do?" The system said, "The host can refresh mid-tier stores. If you're lucky, you might be able to get one. I might as well give it a try." Jun Changxiao clicked on the intermediate shop and began to refresh. 10 minutes later, he leaned weakly against the chair and said, "This is too much of a fucking trap." He spent 5,000 contribution points, but other than buying some daily necessities, he didn't get the gate palm orb. Don't be discouraged. The system said, "I've still saved a lot of contribution points for the host. Go ahead and refresh them. They'll definitely be refreshed." Scram, Jun Changxiao said. After knowing that the evil man was not a human, Jun Changxiao ordered Jin Dejuan to set up multiple formations outside the prison to prevent that guy from escaping. Zhao Daodu, who was hiding inside, wanted to cry but had no tears. So this guy was not a human, but a very powerful spirit beast. If his injuries recovered a little, his beast nature would erupt, and he would kill him. Wouldn't that be a tragedy? Damn it! The evil man lay paralyzed on the ground, clenched his fists with difficulty and said, "If I don't destroy this sect, this king will not be a beast." Although the signal was not sent out, it was not worried at all. When his subordinates realized that he had not returned, they would definitely come to rescue him. What if they didn't come? It didn't matter. As long as he was still alive, as long as he was still breathing, no matter how serious his injuries were, they could heal on their own. At that time, who would be able to restrain him? Wang. Late at night, The evil man's body emitted a weak light that spread to every inch of his skin and gradually healed his injuries. Zhao Daodu, who was hiding in the corner, bit his 10 fingers, his eyes filled with fear. The next day, the evil man's injuries had recovered quite well, and he already had the ability to sit up. Then he looked at Zhao Daodu coldly, his eyes flashing with a ruthless aura that only berserk beasts would have. Gulp. Zhao Daodu swallowed his saliva, then grabbed the bars and shouted, "June Patriarch, can you change my cell? I don't want to die." Creak. At this moment the door opened. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei walked in, then tied the evil man up with chains and took him away. Phew. Zhao Daodu let out a long sigh of relief. Back mountain. The evil man was tied to a wooden stake. 100 feet in front of him, Xiao Ziji had already picked up the god-modified RPG rocket launcher. Pa! Pulling the trigger, the shell suddenly shook the space and shot out at the fastest speed. The evil man's pupils contracted. Boom! Billowing white smoke rose. Creak. Not long after, the cell door opened again. The evil man, whose body was charred black, was thrown in, lying on the ground like a dead dog. Zhao Daodu, who had just relaxed, saw this and immediately howled in his heart. Why did you send him in again? At night, the evil man's self-healing ability was activated again. But the next day, he was pulled out again and was bombarded again. This cycle repeated over and over again, causing him to be unable to completely recover. Patriarch. In the main hall, Li Qingyang said worriedly, "Since that guy is a spirit beast and has a beast army, we must be on guard." Makes sense. Jun Changshao ordered Jin Dishuai to set up multiple lightning arrays at the foot of the mountain. Then, he ordered Shui Rengui to let the members of the Wolf Rider Hall enter a state of alert, ready for any unexpected situation. Patriarch. One day, Li Luoqiu hurried over and said, "I just received news that a large number of berserk beasts have entered Death Valley these few days, and all the warriors who went in to train have no news." Oh, Jun Changshao was quite surprised. Ding! Side mission triggered. Another mission. Jun Changshao opened the system panel. The mission was, the Beast Army will soon attack the Sect. Rescue the Purple King. The host needs to lead the disciples to defend the position elite mission. The Beast Army will attack? Jun Changshao frowned. Could it be that the berserk beasts that entered Death Valley are that guy's subordinates? Wait a minute. The Purple King? Why does it sound so familiar? Damn. Jun Changshao suddenly remembered what Feng Feisha had said before. His expression was very interesting as he said, "That guy is the miserable demon that was sealed before he could succeed." No, that was an existence that Mini Wuxing sealed. How could it be so weak? How could it be captured by me so easily? What's more, it was an ambitious demon, which could be seen from the army that was previously gathered to fight with the humans. Now that it had escaped from the seal, it would definitely make a comeback. If I capture it, wouldn't it be the same as inadvertently saving the people from the fire and water? The arrival of the side mission not only revealed the evil man's identity, but also warned in advance that the berserk beasts would attack the Sect of all times. Such a spoiler was simply insane. Death Valley. More and more berserk beasts gathered, and the number had already reached hundreds of thousands. However, their king had not returned. Big Brother, the Sect of all times won the Dragon Tiger battle for supremacy. They are very strong. I'm afraid the king is in trouble. A spirit beast said. Swoosh. Swoosh. At this moment, streams of light pierced through the sky and flew into Death Valley, entering the glabella of a few spirit beasts. The spirit beasts exclaimed in unison, "Our king has been captured by the Sect of all times. Go!" The right-hand spirit beast said with a murderous aura. "Go and save the king!" Roar! Roar! On this day, hundreds of thousands of berserk beasts rushed out of Death Valley, rushing towards the Sect of all times like a tide, and their roars shook the heavens and earth. Chapter 733. Sect Master Jun had unwittingly saved the world. If the relevant departments in charge of this matter were unable to find the purple craggy demon king, the entire continent would be plunged into a bloodbath once it recovered its strength and charged out with its underlings. However, The price of doing a good deed without leaving a name was that the beast army would not attack others. Instead, they would target the sect of all times. Come on, come on. Jun Changshao sat in the main hall, holding the side of his face with one hand. Whether or not I can complete the side quest, it all depends on you guys. Patriarch. Shui Rengui walked in wearing his armor and cupped his hands. The defensive line has been set up, and the villagers along the way from Death Valley to Ironbone Mountain have been evacuated and settled down properly. Yes, Jun Changshao nodded, and then with a thought, he temporarily closed the sect protecting Great Sect, and only saw a few streams of light that had been blocked, finally flew out and flew towards Death Valley. Everything was ready. They were just waiting for them to attack. Although there was a mission component, this kind of action of using one's own sect to fight against the beast army was truly worthy of respect. Heh, he. Feeling that the distress signal he released had flown away, the Purple King, who was lying in the cell, suddenly laughed strangely. However, because it involved his injuries, his smile was abnormally sinister. Sect of all times. Your end is coming. At the foot of the mountain, thousands of Wolf Rider Hall members were already in position. They were wearing armor, holding excellent weapons and equipment, and exuding an aura of a veteran. Without a doubt, during this period of time, under the training of Shui Rengui and Tao Yuan, the members of Wolf Rider Hall had not only increased in number, but also in strength. Of course, Jun Changshao would not only let Wolf Rider Hall fight against the incoming beast army, but also mobilize the entire sect's strength. More than 10,000 disciples were all arranged at the front line. Senior brother, Long Xiang scratched his head and said, "Why does it feel like there's going to be a war?" Li Qingyang said, "I heard from Patriarch that there might be a strong enemy coming soon." A strong enemy? Long Xiang's face turned serious. Mobilizing the entire sect's strength, this matter was definitely not simple. On Mount Ironbone, Xiao Ziji had already summoned the field artillery and placed it in the cannon firing area. It could be said that the sect of all times had already entered level 1 combat readiness before the Death Valley Beast Army had even received the king's distress signal. Although they were few in number, with all kinds of equipment and firearms, the combat power they could unleash would definitely be terrifying. Even if Xinjiang County mobilized all their troops, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Furthermore, the strongest part of the sect of all times was not the various firearms and cannons, but the hundreds of martial king disciples. When humans fought humans, they couldn't fight. Humans were naturally not restricted from fighting beasts. It was no wonder that Jun Changshao did not panic at all after receiving the side quest. From his point of view, the beast army attacking the sect of all times in order to save the Purple King was just giving them experience points and crystal cores. Boom, boom, boom. About 4 hours later, the disciples of the sect of all times heard the sound of the earth shaking. Then, they saw dust billowing in the distance, like a monstrous wave rising from the sea. "It's here," Li Qingyang said with a solemn expression. "Oh my God." Long Xiang stared with his eyes wide open. Such a big commotion. Zhongyi shook his head, picked up the cloud-piercing blade that was stabbed into the ground with one hand and shouted, "Prepare for battle!" Shwa! Shwa! 2,000 members of the Wolf Rider Hall raised their conqueror spears. After strict training, they would not be afraid of any battlefield. They only had the thought of going to the battlefield to kill the enemy. Jun Changshao, who was sitting in front of the mountain gate, waved his hand and said, "Carry that guy down." "Yes, sir." Su Xiaoma and Li Fei dragged the Purple King down the mountain and tied him up in the life and death arena. Roar! Roar! As the monstrous dust rolled over, a furious roar rang out, and the entire space seemed to tremble. At this point, the disciples of the sect of all times realized that the so-called strong enemy was not humans, but a herd of beasts. Exciting! This is too exciting! Long Xiang and the other inner disciples' eyes flashed with passion. The beasts killed in the life and death secret realm were just illusions. But now, they could fight against a herd of beasts with real weapons. It was definitely a different feeling. Boom! Boom! Dozens of half-human spiritual beasts rushed at the front of the team. Their strength was at least comparable to a martial king, and a few of them were even comparable to Wu Huang. Kakik, the Purple King, who was tied up in the life and death arena, saw his right-hand men leading the charge and laughed strangely again. Stupid humans. He suppressed the pain all over his body and said with a ferocious face, "Accept your punishment." Roar! Roar! The tide of beasts rushed over quickly. However, when the leading spiritual beast saw that its king was tied up, it stopped in its tracks. The rest of the beasts also stopped. For a moment, looking down from the sky, the scene was that the tide of beasts and the disciples of the sect of all times were 100 feet apart. The atmosphere was tense. "King!" the spiritual beast roared. Many beasts raised their heads and roared, as if they were crying for the wounded the Purple King. "Hey, hey!" A loud voice sounded. Jun Changshao was holding a megaphone. After testing the sound, he said loudly, "Your king has been captured. If you don't want it to die, put down your weapons and surrender." The side mission was to defend the sect of all times. If they were persuaded to surrender, it would be considered completed. Swoosh! Su Xiaoma took out his true yang sword and placed it on the Purple King's neck. This move was very effective. The dozens of spiritual beasts standing at the front became nervous when they saw that their king's life was in danger. "My people!" At this moment the Purple King shouted. Back then, even Wu Xing couldn't hurt this king. How can this bunch of trash do it? That's right. Their king's body was so strong that even Wu Xing couldn't kill it. He could only seal it. How could it be hurt by a sword? The beasts regained their fighting spirit and burst out with even stronger hostility. "My people!" the Purple King roared. "Although this king has been captured, you must remember that the beasts will never be slaves." The last 4 words were so loud that his voice cracked. One had to admit that this guy's body was really strong. After being bombarded several times, he could still shout loudly. "The beasts will never be slaves." The right-hand spiritual beast clenched his fists tightly and said with a ferocious expression, "Go! Roar! Roar!" The beasts roared angrily and rushed over with red eyes. More than 100,000 beasts moved together. Not only was it like a surging wave, but it also shook the ground. Swoosh! Tao Yuan stood on the high ground and waved the war flag. After Zhong Yi received the order, he raised his sword. "Break through the enemy lines, only death kill." Swoosh! Swoosh! The hurricane wolves started to run. The entire Ironbone Mountain seemed to have turned into a cruel battlefield as the humans and beasts charged. Qingyang City. When Xie Guangquan received the news, he jumped up from his chair and said in shock, "The beasts are attacking the sect of all times? Quick, quick!" He hurriedly ordered. "Send the army to support them." At the same time, the other city lords also received the news of hundreds of thousands of beasts attacking the sect of all times. Therefore, they sent the warriors of their cities to support them. In an instant, the 8 cities of Qingyang County were all mobilized. Meanwhile, in the farthest Zhongzuan province, when the beasts rushed out of the Death Valley, the globe-like sphere in the ancient altar trembled violently. "Not good," an old man in charge of guarding it said in shock. "There's a beast riot in southwest Yangzhou. To make the Earth Spirit sphere give off such a strong warning, it must be the Purple King's doing. Damn it." The person in charge of the altar said angrily, "This demonic creature actually escaped from the northern desert province to southwest Yangzhou and began to wreak havoc in such a short time. It should have completely recovered by now. Quickly contact Mu Changhong of southwest Yangzhou. Tell him to hold on until reinforcements arrive no matter what. Yes. Contact the city lords of the West Cloud Province and South Baron Province. Tell them to send experts to reinforce as soon as possible. Yes. Contact City Lord Han and tell him to head to southwest Yangzhou immediately. Yes. Announce to the 5th class and above that the Starfall continent has entered a state of alert. Tell the 3rd class and above to send their elite disciples to southwest Yangzhou immediately. Yes." The person in charge of the altar issued several orders in succession. From the extremely fast speed of his speech, the situation was very critical and urgent. Buzz! Heavenly Mandate Imperial City, City Lord's mansion. Mu Changhong, who was sipping on his tea, suddenly heard a voice. He jumped up from his seat and exclaimed, "The purple craggy monster king has broken the seal and is leading a horde of beasts to attack our southwestern Yangzhou city." City Lord. At this moment, an array master hurried in and said, "According to the transmission from the altar of Zhongzuan State, the beasts are rioting at Mount Iron Bone in Qingyang County. This is troublesome." Mu Changhong immediately took off and sped toward Qingyang County. Yi Tianxing, the owner of the Certification Institute, and Situ Haoyun, the dean of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, went with him. Both of them had also received the news from the altar. In the two imperial cities of South Baron Province and West Cloud Province, Wu Huang cultivators flew out one after another. What's going on? Many warriors were surprised. With so many Wu Huang cultivators flying out together, something must have happened. Sect leader. In the Tsongshan sect, Ma Yunting rushed over and said, "The altar sent news that the Purple King has appeared and is leading a herd of beasts to attack Qingyang County." What? The Tsongshan sect leader's eyes widened. Whoosh! Whoosh! Ma Yunting, Wang Donglin, and the other elders of the Tsongshan sect flew down the mountain gate and sped toward Qingyang County. Although the altar didn't say that the fifth-rate sects would provide reinforcements, they were allies with the sect of all times. If Qingyang County was rioting, they would definitely help. Shi Jingxian of Miaohua Palace also received the news and said, "The beasts are attacking Qingyang City. June Patriarch's sect will definitely be affected." "First elder, second elder," she hurriedly ordered, "go and provide reinforcements." Yes. Although Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue hated Jun Changshao, they couldn't sit back and do nothing when the altar sent news that the beasts were rioting. June Patriarch. Shi Jingxian grabbed the corner of her clothes and said worriedly, "The entire continent has entered a state of emergency. You must hold on until reinforcements come." Whoosh! Whoosh! City Lord Han of the Great Sage Imperial City had already received the news. Wu Xing activated his cultivation and rushed to southwest Yangzhou as fast as he could. His weathered face was filled with determination. Purple Craggy Demon Monarch was extremely powerful. Back then, many Wu Sheng could only seal him but couldn't kill him. Without the help of an expert of the same level, he might not be able to return. Even so, he wouldn't back down, because if he cowered in fear of death, who would protect the common people in this world? Ironbone Mountain in front of the sect. Jun Changshao sat on a chair, holding a bowl of fried rice in one hand and eating with chopsticks in the other. He praised, "The fried rice made by this girl is getting more and more delicious." Chapter 734. The Earth Spirit Instrument had issued a high-energy warning, which meant that there was a large-scale beast riot. The person in charge of the altar firmly believed that only the Purple King could do this. Since it dared to attack, it meant that it had completely recovered from the seal. If so, the situation was very serious. The news of the Purple King's reappearance spread to all the states and forces, and the whole continent became very nervous. If it was just a beast riot, they would not be so worried. The main reason was that the demonic creature was very powerful. Many Wu Sheng had failed to kill it back then, and now that it had made a comeback, the whole continent would be plunged into misery and suffering. So, after receiving the news from the altar, all the sects and powerhouses were mobilized. Everyone was responsible for the rise and fall of the continent. Just as the whole world became nervous and mobilized, Jun Changshao, who was at the scene of the beast riot, was leisurely eating his fried rice. He could not be blamed. He did not know that the powerhouses were coming to help, and he was really hungry. Bang! Suddenly, the field cannon on the mountain fired. The shell dragged a stream of light and drew a beautiful arc, accurately landing in the midst of the charging beasts. Boom! The power of the explosion swept the surroundings, rolling up gusts of wind. Pfft! Jun Changshao spat out the fried rice in his mouth. His eyelids rolled up as he leaned against the back of the chair, and a buzzing sound came from his ears. The side effect of using the Heaven and Earth talisman was still there, and he did not have any cultivation now. The young man who wore sunglasses to spy on him had also mistakenly said that he was flying over the mountain gate. Huff huff, the dust dissipated, and a deep crater appeared in the explosion area. Tens of thousands of dire beasts had died tragically. The Purple King, who was tied up in the life and death arena, suddenly widened his eyes. What was that? It could explode with such a terrifying power. Bang! Xiao Ziji fired again. The shell dragged a stream of light as it flew over the Purple King and landed in the midst of the beasts again. Boom! The second shell exploded again, using power to explain the art of explosion. After the two shells, countless dire beasts were killed. Broken limbs, blood and crystal cores were scattered everywhere. The air was filled with a nauseating smell. Kill! Zhongyi bellowed angrily and charged forward with his men. Puchi! Puchi! The members of the Wolf Rider Hall immediately clashed with the incoming horde of beasts, their sharp spearheads mercilessly killing everything in their path. Among the beasts that came to rescue the Purple King, apart from his right-hand spirit beasts, who were relatively strong, the rest were nothing more than a ragtag army that had been temporarily formed. They had been hastily gathered in Death Valley, so their battle prowess could be imagined. Of course, no matter how messy they were still stronger than the White Tiger Corps of the past. However, in the past few years of development, the Sect of All Time's Wolf Rider Hall's strength had increased by leaps and bounds, and it was easy for them to take care of such miscellaneous soldiers. Puchi! Puchi! Zhongyi led his troops like an indestructible spear, ruthlessly tearing through the beast tide. Then he turned the spearhead and continued to kill his way back. Although their strength was formidable, and they were unstoppable, there were simply too many ferocious beasts. After this charge, a large number of ferocious beasts had already approached the defensive line. Boom! Boom! At the same time, an explosive sound came from the sky. Powerful psionic energy and explosive hostility came wantonly. A few Emperor-level spirit beasts had already started fighting with the evil Saint of Five Treasures in the sky. In terms of numbers they had the advantage, but their opponent was Wuxia. Although they were only Emperor-level cultivators, they could still contend with him with ease. The spirit beasts that were comparable to king-level spirit beasts in the army of beasts had also been stopped by the F4 of the Sect of All Times and lured out of the battlefield for a fierce battle. In terms of high-level combat strength, the Sect of All Times was not inferior to this group of beasts. Moreover, Little Long Long and Xiao Maxian had yet to fight, and the Grand Elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace was still sweeping the ground in the outer courtyard. Jun Changshao put on his ears and said, "Other than their numbers, their strength is really weak. I'm afraid they've lost their minds to attack our Sect of All Times." He was a little smug. It was also the Purple King's fault for being too arrogant. He thought that a fifth-rate sect was very weak and came alone, but in the end, he was reduced to a prisoner. If he had first retreated in Death Valley to recover his strength and deployed more and more powerful beasts, the situation would definitely be different when he came to ask for the eggs. One wrong move, he had lost the whole game. Damn it! The Purple King, who was tied to the life and death arena, watched his people fall one by one, and his eyes gradually turned red. Roar! Roar! The beasts rushed over without caring about their lives. They didn't have intelligence, but they only had one thought in their minds, and that was to save the king. Boom! 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 However, when they were about to approach the defensive line of the Sect of All Times, the space suddenly shook, and thunder attributes splashed out, causing a series of explosions. Zhen Dejuan covered his face with one hand and laughed strangely with his shoulders shaking. Art comes from explosions. Seeing that tens of thousands of his clansmen had died, the Purple King's eyes gradually became bloodshot, and the anger in his heart had reached its peak. However, there was nothing he could do. Because of the continuous bombardment, his body was still seriously injured. Give up. Su Xiaoma, who was standing at the side in charge of guarding, shook his head and said, "If we let them continue to rush over, they will only make unnecessary sacrifices." This was a kind reminder, because the Sect of All Times had a large number of Martial King-level disciples who had not made a move yet. It was undeniable that there were many beasts attacking the Sect of All Times, but under the suppression of the top forces, The low-level beasts were definitely like Calabash brothers saving their grandfather. One by one, one by one, one by one. Roar! The beasts that crossed the thunder array with the bodies of their companions were still charging angrily, and they were getting closer and closer to the defensive line. Swish! Swish! The Sect of All Time's disciples at the front raised their AK-47s. Although there was a monthly purchase limit for this weapon, Jun Changxiao would buy it as soon as the cooldown was off, and then distribute it to the Drizzle Hall. Now the number was close to 100. A group of 100 people guarding the life and death arena formed a line in front of them, and there was a dense pack of beasts charging over from the opposite side. The scene was very vivid. Roar! Roar! The beasts were still charging forward dauntlessly. Fire! Da-da-da! Da-da-da! It was as if an endless stream of photon bullets were shooting over, either piercing the heads of the beasts or turning them into beehives. The scene was extremely tragic. Plop! Plop! The beasts fell one by one, and the following beasts took their place. They relied on the beast tide tactic to attack the defensive line, all for the sake of saving their king. Li Qingyang and the others stood behind the defensive line and did not make a move, because at the moment, although the beasts were not afraid of death and were charging forward dauntlessly, under the suppression of firepower, they might not be able to reach the defensive line. Boom! Boom! In midair, the evil saint of 5 ultimates completely unleashed his cultivation. Evil chi filled his hands, and he was evenly matched with several emperor-level spirit beasts. On the other side, Jiang Ye and the other 3 had successfully restrained more than 20 martial kings, so that they could not help the beasts break through the defensive line at all. Whoosh! Whoosh! On the sentry tower behind the defensive line, the Drizzle Hall members were equipped with AWMs and Type 88 sniper rifles, and they were accurately killing the beasts in the herd. In a short time, the Beast Tribe army suffered heavy casualties. Judging from the current situation, they were charging forward dauntlessly like moths to a flame. Don't you think it's cruel to let your subordinates die like this? Jun Changxiao walked over and stopped in front of the Purple King. He put the blunderbuss next to its mouth and said, "If I were you, I wouldn't let the tragedy continue." The Purple King clenched its fists tightly, and the anger in its heart was indescribable. However, after seeing its subordinates and people fall one by one in the charge, it still roared unwillingly, "Stop." Chapter 735. Stop! The Purple King's weak voice was amplified through the loudspeaker and resounded throughout the entire Ironbone Mountain. For a moment, the beasts that were charging forward stopped. The dozens of high-level spirit beasts that were fighting with the evil saint of 5 ultimates looked at their king in shock. The Purple King lowered his head, and Jun Changxiao moved the loudspeaker down. A moment later, a voice filled with unwillingness and anger was heard. "All of you get lost. Beasts would never be slaves, but they would not make unnecessary sacrifices." This small 5th-rate sect had great power, forcing the Purple King to give up his attack. "King!" His right hand and right-hand spirit beast shouted. It and its kind did not care about death. As long as they could save their king, it did not matter even if they had to bleed to the last drop of blood. "Get lost!" The Purple King's voice was slightly weak, but there was no doubt about it. The king's order was an imperial edict, and it had to be obeyed. So the right-hand spirit beast gritted its teeth and said, "Retreat!" Roar! Roar! The remaining 100,000 beasts roared in grief, then dropped their battle bodies and retreated. The patriarch did not give the order, and the disciples of the Sect of All Times did not take advantage of the victory to pursue. In a short time, only the corpses of the beasts that had died tragically were left on the battlefield, as well as the crystal cores that had not been completely trampled. This battle between humans and beasts started quickly and ended quickly as well, because of the great disparity in strength. Ding! Side quest completed. Host has received 10,000 contribution points. Ding! Contribution points, 199,602,0000. Ding! Congratulations to host for completing the side quest. You have received the hidden reward of a high-grade Gate Master's Ball X1. Experience Talisman X2. After hearing the reward, Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. He was worried that he could not subdue the Purple King, and the quest immediately rewarded him with a high-grade Gate Master's Ball. This was really timely help. Bring it back to the sect. Jun Changxiao shouted. Yes. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei dragged the Purple King away. The latter angrily said, Darn humans, this king will remember this. As a noble beast, even if it was captured, even if its subordinates were defeated, it still had to say what it had to say. Otherwise it would lose a lot of face. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, I'll let you eat fried rice later. Patriarch. Li Qingyang walked over and said, Many crystal cores have been crushed. There are only 20 to 30,000 left. It's all right. Jun Changxiao glanced at the corpses on the ground and said, Skin bones, whatever you can. Yes. Li Qingyang was just about to order his fellow disciples to take action when he saw Xie Guangquan and the others leading a large group of cultivators rushing over. They were the closest to the sect of all times, so naturally, they were the first to arrive. However, when they saw the ground full of ferocious beast corpses, they were all dumbstruck. Thank you, City Lord. Jun Changxiao said. Why are you all here? Xie Guangquan came back to his senses and said, Jun Patriarch, I received news that a beast horde is attacking the sect of all times, so I brought the army here to help. You're too late. They've already been defeated. Jun Changxiao said, but he was very touched. After all, this was a true friend in need. Xie Guangquan's mouth twitched. From the time they received the news to the time they gathered reinforcements, it was less than an hour. It was said that hundreds of thousands of ferocious beasts were defeated. This was too fast. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, Mu Changhong, Yi Tianxing, and Situ Haoyan landed in the arena of life and death. They looked at the ground full of ferocious beast corpses in a daze. They knew the severity of the situation better than Xie Guangquan. So when they did not see any living ferocious beast, they asked in unison, Where's the beast horde? It's been taken care of, Jun Changxiao said. Xie Guangquan and the other city lords were very close to him, so it was normal for them to know about the beast horde's attack. How did these cultivators in the heavenly mandate royal city know? Whoosh, the space trembled, and City Lord Han appeared out of thin air. His aura exploded, and it was clear that he was ready for a fight. But when he saw the corpses of ferocious beasts all over Mount Ironbone, and saw that there was not a single living ferocious beast, and saw that the disciples of the sect of all times were being skinned and deboned, the expression on his face gradually froze. City Lord Han? Jun Changxiao said in surprise. Why are you here? City Lord Han had been in battle for a long time, so he quickly calmed down and said, The beast horde is rioting and harming the people. I'm here to help. Jun Changxiao, it was just a group of small fries. Even Wu Sheng was alarmed. This was making a mountain out of a molehill. Jun Patriarch. City Lord Han said, What about the demons? As he spoke, he exuded an aura of self-sacrifice. In this era where martial emperors no longer cared about worldly affairs, as Wu Sheng, he had to take responsibility. Demons? Were they referring to the Purple King? Whoosh, whoosh. Not long after, the elders of the Tsongshan sect, led by Ma Yunting, also rushed over. They had come with the determination to live and die with the sect of all times. In the end, they did not see the beast horde, and were all stunned on the spot. Seeing so many people coming to support, Jun Changxiao immediately realized that there must be something fishy going on, so he hurriedly asked Mu Changhong in a low voice. When he learned that a very powerful department in the Zhongzhuang state had captured the beast horde rioting and contacted the major sects to issue a level 1 alert, his expression immediately became interesting. Oh please! Was there a need to mobilize such a group of beasts? Jun Changxiao could not understand, because he did not know how strong the Purple King was at his peak. Whoosh! Whoosh! Not long after, the experts of the Western Cloud State and the Southern Barren State rushed over one after another. After seeing the ferocious beast corpses all over the ground, they were collectively dumbfounded. The altar had released the news as quickly as possible, making it seem like a great disaster was imminent. They had rushed over in a hurry, But the situation was not as serious as they had imagined. Naturally, they were devastated. 2 hours later, many experts gathered at the foot of the Ironbone Mountain. It could be said that they were a gathering of heroes. However, when they confirmed that the beast horde had been killed and retreated, they stood in the same place in a mess. The altar was also depressed, because after the beast horde retreated, the earthly spirit instrument suddenly stopped trembling. Why did it stop? Several elders were stunned. At this moment, the leader received a message from City Lord Han. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. We were wrong. It was not the Purple King who led the army here. It was a small group of beasts that were agitated and have been annihilated by the Sect of all times. No way. Everyone was devastated. Maybe the spatial vibration from the great sage's imperial city last time affected the earthly spirit instrument, so its warning is too sensitive, the leader analyzed. That's possible. The others agreed. Pass down the order, lift the level 1 alert, and remind all forces that the news of the Purple King's reappearance is not to be spread casually to avoid causing panic, the leader said. Yes, Ironbone Mountain Life and Death Arena. Looking at the experts flying in the sky and standing below, Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, My sect of all times is in trouble, and all of you have come to help. This Jun is really grateful. The corners of the experts' mouths twitched. Who the hell is here to help you? We are here to help the entire continent. However, Jun Changshao said again, this is indeed a small group of beasts that came to attack. They were very weak, and have been destroyed by my sect of all times. Please don't be nervous. He would not tell anyone about the Purple King. After all, he still had to subdue it for his own use, so he could only minimize the problem. All right, the city lord of the West Cloud State Imperial City said. We came for nothing. Let's go, let's go. Since the Purple King was not wreaking havoc in the world, they would not stay for long. Dojo Master E. Just as Yi Tianxing was about to leave, Jun Changshao smiled and said, The battle of dragons and tigers is over. As for the spirit stones. Chapter 736. All the powerhouses rushed over, but the situation was not as serious as they imagined, so they left without staying. Of course, before leaving, they did not forget to inquire about the Sect of all times. This sect that rose like a comet gave them a very mysterious feeling, so they naturally wanted to know more about it. Unfortunately, as soon as their spiritual senses surged toward Mount Ironbone, they were mercilessly bounced back by the array. The array master, Zhen Dejuan, did not only know how to use explosions as art. Ever since he started researching the Chiman 32 arrays, he had long set up an isolation array around the sect to prevent others from peeping with their spiritual senses. Since it's not the Purple King who is causing trouble, I'll take my leave first. City Lord Han cupped his hands and said. Jun Changshao took the space ring with a large number of spirit stones from Yi Tianxing and said, City Lord Han, it's not easy for you to come here. Why don't you stay for a meal before leaving? Wu Sheng was a powerhouse. If he could make friends, he naturally had to. The Imperial City is busy, so there's no need for Jun Patriarch to spend money. City Lord Han cupped his hands, then got up and flew away. City Lord Mu stay for a meal? Jun Changshao looked at City Lord Mu. The latter shook his head and said, another day. Therefore, the powerhouses that existed in Mount Ironbone quickly left, but they were muttering in their hearts. It was clearly a small group of low-level ferocious beasts that invaded. The altar was making a fuss over nothing. After watching everyone leave, Jun Changshao also muttered to himself, the Purple King should be capable. Otherwise, why would the powerhouses of the entire continent be so nervous? However, it was too weak to be knocked down with one shot. Or could it be that that guy had been sealed for too long, and its strength had not reached its peak? So it thought that the Sect of all times was easy to bully, and came looking for trouble with its head held high? If that's the case, Jun Changshao shook his head and said, it's really going to fight to the death before it even has a chance to win. Of course, thousands of years ago, so many ferocious beasts had gathered to go all out, but they were all killed before they could even take action. Now that he had made a comeback, He hadn't even recovered his cultivation and summoned all of his underlings before he was reduced to a prisoner. The Purple King, who had been locked up in his cell again, lamented with tears in his eyes. Why is it so difficult for this king to accomplish something great? Creak. The door opened again. Su Xiaoma walked in first and neatly arranged the chairs. Jun Changshao sat down elegantly and crossed his legs, interlocking his fingers, and said with a smile, "Are you convinced?" "Submit my ass," the Purple King raged. Even though it had been captured, even though its underlings had been defeated, it was still unwilling to accept this, because it was not in its most powerful state. Otherwise, it would definitely be able to crush this human and his sect. Jun Changshao said with a solemn expression, "You are a monster king who wants to do great things. And I am also a person who wants to do great things. If we join forces, we will definitely be able to achieve great things." Ding! Your good friend, Deputy Director Jun of the Strategic Deception Bureau, is online. Bah! The Purple King said hatefully. You humans are cunning and sinister. This king has to help you count the money after being sold. How can I work with you? Jun Changshao said seriously. You have the strongest body, and I have the strongest brain. If we join forces, we can really do whatever we want in the Falling Star continent. He was not in a hurry to use the gate palm ball, because if he could persuade it to surrender with words, he could save it. However, the Purple King said firmly, I will be your spring. Spring-autumn dream? Yes, keep dreaming. Sigh. Jun Changshao stood up and said, Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being rude. Swoosh. The high-ranked gate palm ball appeared in his hand, and he made a dashing throwing gesture saying, Say it smells good. Bang! The gate palm ball hit the Purple King's head directly, but nothing happened. Huh. Jun Changshao was stunned. He picked up the gate palm ball and shouted again, Go gate palm ball! Bang! It hit Purple Chestnut's head again, but still nothing happened. Fuck. Jun Changshao broke down and said, Why not? Bang! 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 He hit it a few more times, and finally lay on the chair panting, shouting in his heart, What's going on? The system said, In theory the Purple King is only at the Emperor level, so it should be able to be subdued directly. The fact that the host has failed repeatedly shows that its true strength is beyond the range of the high-ranked gate palm ball. Jun Changshao broke down. I was given a gate palm ball for completing the mission, but I can't subdue it. What's the use of being a protagonist? The system said, Shouldn't the host be laughing? Why should I laugh? If the high-ranked gate palm ball can't be subdued, it means that its level is very high. If you can subdue it for your own use, it will definitely be a very powerful fighter. This sentence instantly reminded Jun Changshao, and he suddenly changed from a collapsed state to a sinister smile and said, That makes sense. Seeing him suddenly show a strange smile, the Purple King's heart suddenly shuddered, and he secretly said, Don't tell me I have some disgusting fetish? Are you hungry? Jun Changshao said gently, Hungry? Even if this king was really hungry, how could he say it out loud? Xiao Mu. Jun Changshao said, Go and ask Dudu to cook a few dishes and bring 2 jars of wine. This king wants to get drunk with this warrior today. Yes. Su Xiaoma left quickly. Not long after, 1 black and 2 black prepared the table, and then put all kinds of delicious food and 2 jars of old wine. These dishes were very hard. All of them were meat. Warrior, Jun Changshao said, Since you are a beast, this king has prepared more meat dishes. Humph. The Purple King sneered and said, This king prefers to eat human meat. It's a pity that I'm not Tang Sung. Otherwise I'll cut a piece for you to eat. Jun Changshao sat down and said, Untie this warrior. Ka. The chains were removed, and the Purple King's body staggered a few steps. It seemed that he was really weak. However, he didn't walk over but coldly said, Damn human, what tricks are you playing? Jun Changshao said, You are a prisoner. Naturally, you have to eat your fill, so that you can continue to be abused. Jun Patriarch, Zhao Daodu, who was curled up in the corner, smelled the intoxicating fragrance of the dishes and said weakly, Can I do it too? Take him out and beat him. Zhao Daodu, who was a hindrance, was taken out, leaving only Jun Changshao and the Purple King in the cell. One was weak and had no cultivation, while the other was seriously injured and exhausted. They felt like brothers in distress. The fragrance of the food filled the entire cell, crazily attacking the Purple King's unusually sensitive sense of smell, to the extent that he couldn't help but drool. "Come and eat," Jun Chang said with a smile as he picked up his chopsticks and started eating. Seeing that he was smacking his lips, the Purple King swallowed a mouthful of saliva, then turned his head with difficulty, but his body moved over step by step. "Pa!" He sat down and put his left hand on his right wrist, forcibly stopping him from picking up the chopsticks. His expression was unusually fierce and he was struggling. "King, you must hold on." Unfortunately, the self-restraint of beasts was not as good as that of humans. In the end, the Purple King gave in. He picked up a piece of red braised meat with his chopsticks and said angrily, "Stupid human, this king is full and waiting for you to abuse me." Swish! He swallowed it. The food had just reached his mouth, but before he could chew it, the taste of the food deeply stimulated the Purple King's nerves through his taste buds, making him feel as if he was struck by lightning. His burnt black hair all stood up. In a trance, he felt as if he was running under the setting sun. That was his lost youth. Chapter 737. Berserk beasts were not particular about food, and would usually eat raw meat directly. Therefore, the food cooked by Lu Wanshi instantly brought a fatal blow to the Purple King. He sat there for a long time without recovering. At that moment, his soul had already flown out, and was chasing after his lost youth under the setting sun. "It's done." A smile appeared on Jun Changxiao's face. He was still very confident in the food cooked by Lu Wanshi. As long as the other party could eat well, if one time was not enough, he would try a few more times. Let's see how long it could last. Munch munch. The Purple King's soul was tired from running, and then began to wolf down the food. It was really too weak and too hungry. In just a moment, the table of delicacies was cleanly eaten by it. Gulp. After drinking half a jar of wine, the Purple King still wanted more and said, "Is there any more?" "Yes, tomorrow." Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, "Little Mo, drag it out and accept the punishment of the cannon." The Purple King, damn it, it just finished its meal, and started to torture without even taking a breath. Its speed was too fast. Boom! The sound of cannons could be heard from the back mountain. Not long after, the Purple King, who was covered in wounds, was dragged back to the cell. Jun Changshao knew that this guy would definitely be powerful when he was at his peak. Therefore, during the persuasion stage, he had to continue to bombard it, so that it could not recover, and would always be in a weak state. Xiao Ziji never expected that not only did he find a living target, he also never thought that he could use it to practice every day. This was very comfortable. Swish! Jun Changshao lay on the chair in the study room and stretched his body. Then he began to think about more problems, such as the egg that the Purple King mentioned before. Was it obtained from the fire dragon beast, and the egg that hatched into the little dragon? Could it be? Jun Changshao said in surprise. The egg was laid by it. No. That guy is obviously a male. How could it lay an egg? The system said. Maybe it has this function. Bullshit. Jun Changshao absolutely did not believe that the male body had the ability to nurture living creatures. Otherwise, what was the use of the female body? I'll ask him tomorrow. The Purple King definitely had a story behind him. He had to pry it open. Patriarch. Elder Wei walked in and said, "The new batch of herbs has matured." Really? Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up with joy. This batch of mature herbs could be used to concoct Martial King pills. As soon as he put the medicine hall into his spatial ring, he started refining without hesitation. How troublesome. Jun Changxiao rubbed his temples and said, "You have to do this kind of alchemy yourself." The system was speechless. You've been relying on missions and experience talismans to raise your realm the entire time. How can you tire yourself to death doing a little work? Yes. The side mission gave me quite a lot of contribution points. I need to continue using them to make room for the Sect mission reward. Jun Changshao murmured. As the sect's construction increased, the upper limit of the number of people would also increase. Therefore, the martial arts facilities had to be continuously expanded. When there were not many contribution points, Jun Changshao would mostly use them to try his luck in the shop. However, since the number of disciples exceeded 10,000, he was more inclined towards the sect's development. This was also normal. After all, it was a sect system. Everything was based on the sect. The next day, Jun Changshao first inspected the construction site, then went to the prison. As usual, he placed food and wine for the Purple King to eat first. This made Zhao Dao to drool, but he could only watch and did not dare to make a sound. During the meal, Jun Patriarch had asked about the egg. However, although the other party ate, he was very principled and did not answer any of his questions. Fine, let's just kill him. After that, the Purple King could eat a meal cooked by Lu Wansher every day. He was bombarded every day. It could be said that he lived a life of ice and fire. The sect of all times returned to its usual peace. The disciples continued to cultivate and do missions. A few days later, the sect's missions were all completed. The number of people and achievement points reached the standard. The upgrade button appeared in the construction. Upgrade. Ding. The sect's construction is upgraded to level 8. Ding. The upper limit of sect members, contribution points, and achievement points has increased. Ding. The sect's Lingyam Pavilion has been activated. The notification ended, and the system interface changed. Sect name. The strongest sect since ancient times. Sect master. Jun Changshao. Sect level. 5th rate sect construction. Level 8 sect functions. Medicine Refinery Pavilion, Smithing Pavilion. Lingyam Pavilion. Sect cultivation technique. Yijin Jing, divine grade low level. Landslide Earth Shattering Fist, top grade high level. Sect members. 20000500000 sect contribution points. 200005000 sect achievement points. 220050000 sect mission. None at the moment. Sect main mission. Within 100 years, seeing the various points increase from 20,000 to 50,000, Jun Changshao almost could not help but dance. After all, he was only half the quota for the main mission. If he were to level up to level 9, it would most likely reach 100,000 points. Calm down, calm down. Jun Changshao took a deep breath and said, "We're only halfway there. Don't get carried away too early." Although he said that, he was already squatting down and covering his face. The best thing after the system upgrade was not the increase in the various points, but the new functions. What could this be? Could it be that I can really summon the heroes of the Tang dynasty? Jun Changshao had already started to imagine the scene of summoning Qin Xiong, Cheng Yaojin, and other fierce people. It was also possible that the portraits of the 24 heroes could be activated to give him the ability of a famous general. The system said, "Can you stop wasting time? Hurry up and open it." Okay. Jun Changshao clicked on the Lingyam Pavilion, and a small panel appeared. This new function was similar to a 3D projection space, and there were indeed 24 drawings of nothing. Where are the portraits? Jun Changshao broke down and said, "Why are there 24 blank pieces of paper?" At this moment he saw a small line of words at the bottom. The content was, "This Lingyam Pavilion is modeled after the Tang Dynasty's meritorious official pavilion. The host can also designate 24 disciples of the sect to become the 24 heroes of the sect of all times. If the conditions are met, the disciple will receive a generous reward." Looking further down, there was a list of choices. With a light tap, a dense list of names appeared. The first name was Lu Qianqian, the second name was Li Qingyang, the third name was Su Xiaoma, and so on. From the looks of it, it should be arranged according to the time they entered the sect. I can just choose 24? Jun Changshao clicked on Lu Qianqian's name. Whoosh! The drawings hanging at the top of the Lingyam Pavilion gradually showed lines, as if they were automatically drawing. When it was completed, the words Lu Qianqian appeared. Jun Changshao was speechless. He thought that he would have to draw the faces of the disciples, but it turned out that only the names were written. There were still lines on the drawings, and the final content was, Merit points. 10,100 points. Temporarily ineligible to enter the Lingyan Pavilion. Why the fuck do I still need merit points? Didn't you say that I can choose as I wish? Jun Changxiao was on the verge of breaking down. The system said, the host only has the right to nominate. Whether or not the host can enter the Lingyan Pavilion in the end depends on the disciple's contribution to the sect. I see. Jun Changxiao clicked on Li Qingyang's name, and the second piece of white paper gradually showed the content. Li Qingyang merit points. 980-100 points. Temporarily ineligible to enter the Lingyan Pavilion. Damn, Jun Changxiao said in surprise. My second disciple's merit points are that high. Nonsense. The system said. He's in charge of internal affairs, gives pointers to his fellow disciples, and has been constantly renovating the sect. Such a versatile chief manager definitely has a high contribution to the sect. That's why I say that Qingyang is my favorite. Jun Changxiao then clicked on Xiao Ziji and Su Xiaoma. After their names were printed, the merit points displayed were 34 and 31 respectively. The system was speechless. The Lingyan Pavilion only has 24 spots. Although the number can be changed at will before the final decision is made, the host can't be so sloppy. They are all core disciples of the sect of all times. How can I be sloppy? As Jun Changxiao spoke, he clicked on Yi Xingchen's name. The other party's merit points were only 6, lower than Lu Qianqian's. How are the merit points calculated? How would I know? Aren't you omnipotent? Have you ever seen an omnipotent system get slapped in the face time and time again? Nope. Chapter 738. Jun Changxiao picked a few more disciples, such as Li Fei, Tianqi, and the others. Their merit points also fluctuated between 10 and 30. They were still far from reaching the full value. It doesn't seem to be of any use. Jun Changxiao frowned. In the past, its function was to refine pills, forge, or directly refine talismans. This function was to nominate 24 disciples. It didn't seem to be of any substantial help to him. The system said, didn't I say that disciples who meet the requirements to stay in the Lingyan Pavilion will receive generous rewards? But how do I get merit points? Slowly figure it out. Jun Changxiao couldn't be bothered to speak. He pulled down the list of disciples and locked onto Shengguan Xinyao's name. Thus he said, let's see how many merit points this girl has. The reason he had this idea was that this girl had created many martial arts techniques. Damn. After the name and value appeared, Jun Changxiao said in surprise, she actually has 60 merit points. The system said, this girl created many half-completed mental cultivation techniques and helped the host buy martial arts techniques from the Technique Pavilion. Perhaps that's why she has so many merit points. So, only those who contribute greatly to themselves and the sect will have merit points increased? Jun Changxiao said. Nonsense. The system said definitely. Let me think about it. Jun Changxiao leaned back in his chair and pondered. According to his deduction, this merit point increase was definitely complicated. If the disciples wanted to obtain it, they had to do something meaningful for the sect. Li Qingyang's merit point was because he had always been worried sick for the sect. Shengguan Xinyao's merit point was also because she helped him buy martial arts techniques, so that the sect's disciples could benefit. However, Yi Xingchen had single-handedly won the sect's tournament and made it into the gathering of elites list. Logically speaking, his merit points should be high. Why was it lower than Lu Qianqian's? The system said, maybe winning the tournament only increased the sect's prestige and didn't bring any help to the sect or the disciples. So it's either nothing or less. That's possible. Jun Changxiao agreed. The best proof was Xiao Ziji and Su Xiaoma. The two of them had also participated in the large competition and had also won the championship. However, they were better than Lu Qianqian and Yi Xingchen. Perhaps it was because they were usually willing to help their fellow disciples and were willing to share their martial arts experience. Try Hiwudi's. Jun Changxiao then placed Hiwudi's name on the white paper. His achievement points were displayed at 50 points. You obtained the hidden cultivation technique from him, allowing all the disciples to cultivate it. Is that why it's so high? There's one more thing. When you're not cultivating, You're responsible for closing the door, the system added. That should be it. After a short period of thinking and reasoning, Jun Changxiao was more or less certain that merit points increased by serving the sect and bringing benefits to fellow sect members. There was no need to mention Li Qingyang. Ever since he became the number 2 henchman, at least 70% of the things he did were for the sect. Lu Qianqian and Yi Xingchen were people of few words. Because they rarely interacted with the disciples and did not help them much, their achievement points were very low. One of them has 10 points and the other has 6 points. I'm afraid it's also because they participated in various large competitions and won the championship. Otherwise it would be a big 0, Jun Changxiao said. Ding! Suddenly, the number on Yi Xingchen's paper changed from 6 points to 7 points. It increased. Jun Changxiao was stunned. In the main hall, Yi Xingchen walked in. Jun Changxiao said, Xingchen, what were you busy with just now? I handed in a mission, Yi Xingchen said. Jun Changxiao thought to himself. It seems that this is also one of the ways to increase one's achievement points. The missions in the mission pavilion are getting harder and harder. As an inner disciple, you should do more of them when you're free. Okay. Although Yi Xingchen said that, he thought to himself, why would I waste my time on missions? If that was the case, why would he do missions? The main reason was that Li Qingyang had a private conversation with him the day before yesterday. He said, Junior brother Yi, don't just cultivate all day. You can go to the mission pavilion and do missions with your juniors. It's a good way to cultivate your relationship with your fellow disciples. Second senior brother not only worked hard for the sect, but he also cared about the relationship between his fellow disciples. If he wasn't 98, then who was 98? After an intense battle of thoughts, Yi Xingchen decided to do missions. He accepted a 5-star mission and left alone. Yes, he did not bring his teammates. There was no reason to bring them along. Completing a 5-star mission only gives me 1 achievement point? Jun Changxiao thought to himself. If I do more missions, won't it be full soon? I've sinned. In order to confirm his guess, he instructed, don't cultivate for the next 2 days. Go and do missions. Pick a 5-star mission. Yes. Xiao Ziji went to the mission pavilion to accept a 5-star mission. After completing it, his achievement point increased by 1 point. Understood. Jun Changxiao grinned and hurriedly called Li Qingyang over. He instructed, don't go to the construction site for now. Go and do 2 5-star missions. Yes. The second disciple got to work. However, to Jun Changxiao's disappointment, after he completed 2 5-star missions, his achievement point was still at 98 points. There was no increase. Why isn't it increasing? Jun Changxiao broke down. The system said, maybe the 5-star missions can only be increased to a fixed value, or there is a limit. Li Qingyang has already reached the limit. Therefore, he will not be rewarded if he completes more missions. That should be the case. Jun Changxiao asked Li Qingyang, and found out that he had completed countless 5-star missions since the mission pavilion began to issue missions. Most of them followed junior brothers whose cultivation levels were not very high to help them complete the missions faster and more safely. It was not brainless help. During the missions, it was more about imparting experience and letting them face the dangers themselves. It's been hard on you. Jun Changxiao patted Li Qingyang on the shoulder. With such a disciple, how could he not like and love her? If Lu Qianqian and Yi Xingchen were like Li Qingyang, contributing selflessly to the sect and being considerate to their fellow disciples, the sect of all times would not have to worry. That scene would definitely not happen. At present, the Lingyan pavilion that was open for the sect's construction and upgrade did not provide any substantial help to Jun Changxiao. It was only useful for the disciples. It did not matter, because if the disciples were strong, the sect would be strong. Remember all of them. After the routine morning exercise, Jun Changxiao said loudly, in the previous life, you looked back 500 times in exchange for a brush with each other in this life. For all of you to become fellow disciples, you looked back at each other at least a few 100,000 times in the previous life. Therefore, you must cherish each other and love each other. Yes. All the disciples shouted in unison. However, they thought in their hearts that they did not do anything in the previous life, and only looked back. Moreover, there were so many disciples in the sect. When everyone gathered together, they would definitely stand on the streets in the previous life, looking back at each other, especially the inner sect disciples. Help your fellow disciples when you are not cultivating, Jun Changshao said. Although there were only 24 spots in the Lingyan Pavilion, he still hoped that the sect disciples could help each other and truly share weal and woe together. Yes, Li Qingyang and the others shouted. Then, the style of the sect of all times suddenly changed. Many of the inner sect disciples took the initiative to help their fellow disciples complete missions or share their martial arts experience. The entire sect exuded an aura that was of a higher level than friendship. 1 month later, the great art of spring and autumn, with the tireless efforts of the sect of all times disciples and Peppa Boar, the construction of Ironbone Town was finally completed. Jun Changshao, who was on the wide main street, looked at the row upon row of buildings around him and smiled. A little to the left, over there, a little to the right. Li Qingyang stood at the entrance of the town and instructed his junior brothers to hang a plaque with the words Ironbone Town in the central area. At this point, a town under the sect of all times was officially established. After everything was done, Li Qingyang's merit points increased from 98 points to 100 points. He had met the requirements to enter the Lingyan Pavilion. Chapter 739. On the day of Ironbone Town's completion, Li Qingyang's merit points reached 100 points. Of course, all the disciples who participated in the construction also received merit points. Because there were too many people, it was not much to share. Swoosh! Jun Changshao opened the Lingyan Pavilion. The image hanging in the second position flashed, and a confirm button appeared out of thin air. There was a small line of words below. Friendly reminder. Once the target is confirmed, it cannot be changed or replaced. Please think twice before you act. Second disciple is sincerely and diligently working hard for the sect. Why should I think twice? Jun Changshao directly pressed the button. Whoosh whoosh. The Lingyan Pavilion suddenly shook slightly. The words that were originally written on it gradually separated and converged into a lifelike portrait of Li Qingyang. There was a table in the portrait. On the table was a blueprint, and beside it were various measuring tools. Li Qingyang maintained his posture of leaning over the table, holding a pen in one hand. His brows were slightly furrowed as if he was thinking. With just a glance, Jun Changshao understood that this was the second disciple working hard for the sect's transformation. The portrait is of him working hard. It's really hard on him. After the portrait was completed, a few lines of words appeared below. Disciple Li Qingyang has successfully entered the Lingyan Pavilion and become one of the 24 meritorious officials. He can share the system's sect functions for the host. Please choose from the following: operating rights of the Alchemy Pavilion, operating rights of the Casting Pavilion, operating rights of the Talisman Pavilion. P.S. The disciple only has the right to operate. The final benefit belongs to the host. After reading, Jun Changshao stood there in a daze. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly he laughed out loud. He used to think that he had to refine the pills himself. Now that he could give the right to operate the pills to his disciple, wouldn't he have to free his hands and let himself go? The system. It used to say that doing a little work could tire one to death. In the end, the disciple who entered the Lingyan Pavilion could share the burden for the host. Wasn't this a slap in the face? It was over. This guy was going to be arrogant again. Of course, Jun Patriarch felt like he was about to ascend to heaven. With the ability of having a disciple to share the burden, there was no doubt that he had taken another big step toward being a hands-off shopkeeper. Once the Lingyan Pavilion gathered all 24 disciples and arranged all the work, he would have time to talk about love. Thinking of the unrestrained life in the future, Jun Changshao leaned back in his chair and covered his face with one hand, laughing uncontrollably. The sect needs a lot of elixirs. Qingyang is a steady person, so he will definitely be in charge. Confirm the right to control the medicinal pill. Ding! Disciple Li Qingyang has obtained the authority to control the pill pavilion and can automatically match the medicinal ingredients, as well as the quantity to be refined. Li Qingyang, who had just returned to his room and was about to have a good night's rest, suddenly had a dazed look on his face. It was as if his soul had instantly merged into the void. This place is... He was stunned. Who? Suddenly, a large alchemy cauldron appeared, emitting an ancient and desolate aura. Wang. The space trembled again, and a lot of words appeared. They were written: beginner-grade chi-gathering pill, medium-grade chi-gathering pill, beginner-grade body-shaping pill, detoxification pill, martial master pill, martial king pill, and so on. They are all refined by the patriarch. Li Qingyang was stunned. At this moment, Jun Changxiao's voice sounded in his ears. Qingyang, you have done your best for the sect, and I am very gratified. Today, I will impart the power of refining elixirs to you. Patriarch. Li Qingyang's face was filled with shock. Jun Changxiao said, you have done missions and been to the life and death secret realm, so you naturally know how to use it. In the future, you will be fully responsible for refining the sect's elixirs. Don't let me down. Although he was a little confused, Li Qingyang hurriedly said, yes. This space is opened up from your sea of consciousness, and only you can come in. You only need to be responsible for refining elixirs. Jun Changxiao said. Yes, Li Qingyang said. The shock in his heart was very strong. To be able to open up an independent space in his sea of consciousness, and only he could come in, set up a furnace, and a bunch of options that seemed to be used to refine elixirs. It was simply too shocking. Was this the ability of the patriarch? Was this the heritage of an ancient sect? Awesome. Too awesome. Li Qingyang clenched his fist and said with a firm gaze, the patriarch has given me such an important task, so I must do it seriously and not let him down. Sigh. The chief of internal affairs deserved the title. Done. Jun Changxiao said. At this moment, the system panel stayed in the alchemy pavilion, and Li Qingyang in his soul form was in front of the furnace. It turned out that it was not an independent space, but he could freely enter and leave the alchemy pavilion in his soul form after passively obtaining the right to control it. The system said, I have analyzed it. Li Qingyang has only obtained the right to refine elixirs in the alchemy pavilion and the right to import herbs. The elixirs he refines will be automatically sent to the host space ring. What does the right to import herbs mean? It means that the alchemy pavilion has been bound to his space ring, so the herbs inside can be automatically matched with the alchemy pavilion. I see. Jun Changxiao understood. To put it bluntly, the right to control the alchemy pavilion was equivalent to turning Li Qingyang into an elixir boy, placing him in the alchemy pavilion, and making him responsible for refining elixirs. That's convenient. However, Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, it would be perfect if the finished elixirs are sent to his space ring, so I don't have to distribute them to the elixir machine. The system said, if everything is left to the disciple, what's the use of having a patriarch like you? In the alchemy pavilion, the soul-transformed Li Qingyang gradually calmed down and raised his head to look at the various elixirs arranged in a row. On the mission list of the mission pavilion, touchscreen operations had long been implemented, so this was not a rare thing for him. Instead, he clicked on the chi-gathering pill. Just nice. Jun Changxiao's space ring had ready-made herbs, and the number of elixirs refined was displayed on it. Li Qingyang pondered for a while, and roughly understood what it meant. He held his chin and said, there were many junior brothers in the previous batch, so the most important thing now is to refine more beginner-grade chi-gathering pills. The alchemy boy was online today. Swoosh. After refining all the herbs that could be refined, Li Qingyang's mind relaxed, and his soul instantly returned to his body. He exclaimed, Patriarch's supreme remarkable power is simply amazing. Huff huff. As soon as he finished speaking, a majestic aura suddenly emerged from his body, and the spirit energy in his dantian was also rolling violently. I'm going to break through. Li Qingyang hurriedly sat down cross-legged and began to use the clear heart art. The power of advancement gushed out like a broken dam, and he smoothly broke through from 4th rank martial king to 5th rank, 6th rank, 7th rank, and finally, 8th rank. Li Qingyang was dumbstruck when he personally felt the 4 consecutive jumps in his cultivation. Wait a minute. He had a stronger perception of the attributes of heaven and earth. Could it be? Li Qingyang's eyes gradually widened, and he said in disbelief, "My spirit root has improved again." Wang. At this moment, he felt a faint pain on the back of his right hand. Thus, he lowered his head and saw a stream of light flickering on his skin. It gradually converged into the word steady, and gradually became transparent. Steady? Li Qingyang was confused. What does that mean? In the study, Jun Changshao was also looking at the panel of the Lingyan Pavilion. He saw a large steady word appear on the portrait of the second disciple, as if it was stamped with a large seal. Steady? Is it referring to Qingyang's steady personality? The system said. After your disciple entered the Lingyan Pavilion, his cultivation rose by 4 ranks, and his spirit root also rose from saint rank to divine rank. Divine rank? Jun Changshao was startled at first, then he smiled and said, "He deserves it." Chapter 740. Li Qingyang's control of the Elixir Pavilion was only a benefit of moving into the Lingyan Pavilion. The real benefit was that his spirit root was upgraded to divine grade. He was the only one in the sect of all times with a divine grade spirit root. Excluding He Wudi from the upper realm, he was the strongest. Jun Changshao was a little surprised, but he quickly calmed down. In his opinion, his second disciple was rewarded with a higher spirit root because of hard work and effort. In fact, Jun Changshao was very relaxed when it came to spirit root aptitude. After all, he had dual cores and practiced both sword and martial arts. Even if he was given a divine grade spirit root, he might not be able to improve quickly. If he wanted to break through, he could only rely on the system to cheat and obtain more experience talismans through missions. This, Jun Changshao said proudly, "This is my way of cultivation. Can't you be a jade lotus?" The system asked. What does stable mean? Jun Changshao began to think. Could it be a code name for all the disciples who move in? Let's assume he was right. Xiao Ziji, who focused on tempering the body, represented defense. Yi Xingqian, who had a bad temper, represented merit? In this case, his 2 disciples were good at both offense and defense. They would definitely be 2 fierce generals in the Lingyan Pavilion. Don't think about it, don't think about it. Jun Changshao shook his head and called Li Qingyang over. Ironbone Town has been built. Go to Qingyang Village and inform the villagers to choose a date to move. Yes. Li Qingyang hurriedly got to work. Being appointed to refine pills made his blood boil even more. The next day, the villagers of Qingyang Village brought their luggage and moved into the newly built Ironbone Town. Everyone was given a big house. Aunt Wang. Jun Changshao personally handed over the permanent residence certificate and said with a smile, "From today onwards, this big house is yours. Remember, don't be like Dachuan and rush to sell the house when the price of the house rises slightly. Otherwise, you won't even have a place to cry." Dachuan? Who is that? Auntie Wang took it and said with a smile, "Child, you've grown up. You've become successful. I told you that if Go Sheng becomes successful in the future, he won't forget us." An old man with a walking stick said with a smile. A man in his 40s or 50s grinned and said, "When Go Sheng was young, he would often go to the vegetable fields to take a dump. He would dig a hole and wait for others to step on it. I could tell that he would become someone great in the future. I get angry whenever this matter is brought up. Back then, I stepped on it a lot. Ha ha ha." The villagers gathered together and laughed. Jun Changshao had already gotten used to the nickname Go Sheng and said, "Without you guys, I would have starved to death a long time ago, and I wouldn't have achieved what I have today." After absorbing the memories of the original owner, he found out that because his parents had died when he was young, he grew up in Qingyang Village and relied on Aunt Wang to help him financially, knowing how to repay kindness. Therefore, Jun Changshao treated these simple villagers as his family. He did not ask for any compensation and provided them with a better living environment. "Aunt Wang, your craftsmanship is not bad. Why don't you open a restaurant? This town is bigger than Qingyang village. The rent must be expensive. Aunt doesn't have the money. It's free of charge. I will renovate it. You just need to run it. This. Aunt Wang could not refuse and could only agree. Patriarch. Just when June Patriarch was talking with the villagers, Li Luochio walked over and whispered, Master AI is here. Yes. June Changshao smiled and said, Aunt Wang, you guys talk. I have something to deal with here. I will leave first. Go. Aunt Wang said, business is more important. After watching June Changshao leave, she shook her head and said, Go Sheng has a successful career now. He is not young anymore. What should we do if he doesn't have a wife? Sigh, when that guy was young, he went up a tree to get bird eggs and fell down. That place just happened to hit a rock. I am worried that there might be a problem. June Changshao, who did not have a cultivation base, could not hear the villagers' discussion. However, Li Luochio, who was following behind him, heard it. Her pretty face changed slightly, and she looked at the patriarch with a strange expression. What's wrong? No, nothing. There was a mansion in the center of Ironbone town. There were no guns in it, and no one would jump down and become a box spirit. It was specially prepared by Li Qingyang for the patriarch. June Changshao walked into the hall. He first signaled Ai Shang to not stand up, and then sat at the head of the table. Although he was usually a little naughty, when he was serious, he still looked like the patriarch. Master AI. June Changshao put his 10 fingers on his thigh and smiled. You came here this time to open a branch in the town? Yes. Ai Shang said. He had already received the news that the Sect of all times was building a town. This time, he came hoping to open the AI family's medicine store, auction house, and other businesses in the town. The AI family had an unwritten rule that their businesses could not be located in the town or the countryside. After all, the purchasing power of a small place could not be compared to a city. However, this time, they chose to extend their businesses to the newly built Ironbone town, because they thought that as the Sect of all times became more famous and stronger, the town would definitely become more prosperous. This came from the businessman's sharp foresight. June Changshao said, Since Master AI is willing to open a branch here, I naturally welcome it. However, you can only open a medicine store and an auction house. Thank you. Master AI leaned forward and said, June Patriarch, I have already thought about it. The monthly pill auction will be held here to boost the town's popularity. This is not bad. June Changshao said. Ironbone town had just been built, and many stores were empty. Ai Shang came first, so he chose the 2 biggest items in the center, and left happily. Not only did the villagers of Green Sun Village live in Ironbone town, many Sect of all times disciples' parents also brought their families and made arrangements. Father, mother. Su Xiaoma stood in front of the courtyard with a bright smile on his face. Little Mo. The 2 elders walked out of the central room and saw their son, who they had only seen once on the screen, and immediately burst into tears. June Patriarch. The 2 of them knelt down and bowed, saying, Our son has troubled you. Please don't. June Changshao hurriedly went up the mountain and stopped them, saying, I want to thank you for sending our son to the Sect of all times without worry. Little Mo. It's rare for you to be reunited with your parents. I will give you 2 days off to accompany them. Yes. Su Xiaoma said at the top of his voice. With the arrival of the parents and relatives of the Sect disciples, the originally deserted town became lively and lively. It also became more humane. June Changshao lay alone on the roof of the mansion, watching the disciples bring their families to play on the streets, and his heart was filled with mixed feelings. I'm all alone on earth, and all alone in the other world. Why am I so pitiful? He shook his head, saying, Or maybe the parents of this body are not ordinary people. Maybe they are not dead, and I'm actually hiding an extremely powerful identity? The system said, Host, this idea is very dangerous. Patriarch. At this moment, Li Qingyang said telepathically, Taishan Shengzong is here to visit. Taishan Shengzong? June Changshao said. I think it's a first-rate sect. Yes. The system said. In terms of strength, it's stronger than the Taishan Holy Sect and Tianjing Holy Sect that we met at the Dragon Tiger battle for supremacy. Shua. Jun Changshao stood up and snapped his fingers, saying, Xiao Maxian returned to the sect. Yes, master. The human form of Xiao Maxian jumped over barefoot. Then she grabbed his shoulder and threw him up, saying, Let's go. Xiao Jun Changshao flew up the mountain like a cannonball. His face that was facing the wind completely collapsed. What the hell is this? Chapter 741. At the entrance of the sect of all times, stood a young man and woman. The man wore a blue robe, looking valiant and extraordinary. The woman wore a white dress, looking like a national beauty. Both of them were around 20 years old. Although they had smiles on their faces, they emitted a cold aura that made one feel as if they were proud plum blossoms in the snow. You too, Li Qingyang said. Please wait a moment. Our patriarch will be here soon. The cold aura emitted by the two didn't cause him any discomfort. He wasn't trying to resist it, but the elder senior sister's cold aura was much stronger than theirs. He had long since become accustomed to it. Do you want to wait outside? The woman smiled. Although her smile was sweet, there was a trace of dissatisfaction in her tone. Li Qingyang knew that they came from a top sect, so they definitely had complaints about being left at the entrance. Thus, he apologetically said, This is a rule of my sect of all times. Please forgive us. The patriarch didn't invite them in, so they could only wait outside. However, the second disciple was quite steady in dealing with people. If he were to drive, the steering wheel would never fly off. Tsk tisk. The man's eyebrows raised in displeasure. Truly worthy of being the sect that won the dragon-tiger struggle for hegemony. You really do have style and arrogance. Li Qingyang smiled, not saying anything. They didn't have any interactions with this top sect, so why would they suddenly come to visit? Moreover, from the arrogance that these two people inadvertently revealed, it seemed that they didn't come with good intentions. Xiao at this time, Jun Changshao flew up from the foot of the mountain, his expression crumbling. The man and woman looked up, their eyes flashing with surprise. They instantly recognized that this was the patriarch of the sect of all times that had frequently appeared in the projection array formation. They also judged that he didn't rely on his flying ability to fly up, but rather that he was thrown up. What was this? Patriarch. Li Qingyang's complexion changed. Shua. Xiao Maxian flew up from the foot of the mountain, catching up to the constantly ascending Jun Changshao. Then, she grabbed onto his shoulder and suddenly fell down, finally stopping in front of the mountain entrance with a loud bang. The landing was smooth and steady, and unusually dashing. Master. Xiao Maxian brightly smiled. Is it convenient? Jun Changshao's feet landed on the ground, and he could feel the incomparably heavy weight of the ground. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said, Don't play next time, my heart can't take it. Noticing that the man and woman were looking at him, he hurriedly straightened his collar and said seriously, What can I do for the two of you? Jun Patriarch. The man cupped his hands and said, My junior sister and I have come here to meet Lu Qianqian. You want to see my eldest disciple? Jun Changshao was rather surprised. The woman smiled and said, Jun Patriarch probably doesn't know this, but Lu Qianqian used to be from the same sect as us. Later, she made a mistake and was expelled. Li Qingyang's eyes widened. Eldest senior sister was once a disciple of Taixian Shengzong. This was big news. Really, Jun Changshao was also surprised. However, he wasn't as shocked as Li Qingyang. After all, he had guessed that his eldest disciple must have some unspeakable secret behind her back. Jun Changshao looked at the woman and lightly said, Are you happy that she was expelled? Since they used to be from the same sect, they should have some feelings for each other. As he spoke, his face was full of smiles, as if he were exposing someone's past and exposing their scars. It had nothing to do with protecting her. Jun Changshao simply hated this sort of person. Jun Patriarch. The man said, Can we go in and talk? No. Jun Changshao said, My sect of all times does not welcome the two of you. Please return the way you came. This fellow's arrogance, and the woman's gloating attitude towards his eldest disciple left him in a bad mood. Thus, he didn't hesitate to ask them to leave. The man frowned and said, Jun Patriarch, Even if we went to other first-rate sects to visit, they would at least be very welcoming. Now that we're here to visit your sect, isn't it a bit impolite to not let us in? Jun Changshao waved his hand with a smile and said, "The two of you, my sect of all times can't accommodate the two of you. Please leave gracefully, and be careful on the road." Very warm and courteous. However, the man and woman's faces were full of displeasure. "What?" Jun Changshao suddenly became arrogant and said, "This is my territory. Don't tell me I don't have the right to not let you in." The man said with a cold face, "Since Jun Patriarch doesn't welcome us, then we'll take our leave." Jun Changshao said, "Forgive me for not sending you off." It wasn't that he deliberately pretended to be cool and forced a conflict. He just couldn't stand these two people. Moreover, since Lu Qianqian was expelled by the Taishan Shengzong, they definitely didn't have good intentions. In order to protect the disciple, it was reasonable to not let them in. Wait a moment. At this time, a cold voice sounded out from the door. Lu Qianqian walked out, her white clothes whiter than snow. There was a complex look in her clear eyes. She had already noticed that these two people had come to visit her at the sect, but she had pretended not to see them. "Senior apprentice Sister Lu," the man said. The woman smiled and said, "She's already been expelled, so how could she be our senior apprentice sister?" Jun Changshao frowned. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't have a cultivation base, he would have directly used his energy domain and let this woman experience the true meaning of fear. Feeling the rising anger in her master's heart, Xiao Maxian whispered, "Can I help?" "No need." Jun Changshao shook his head. "That's true." The man smiled and said, "She is now a disciple of the sect of all times. She is not related to us in any way, so how could she be worthy of being called senior apprentice sister?" Lu Qianqian lightly said, "You came to find me just to ridicule me?" "Of course not." The woman smiled and said, "Senior apprentice Sister Fong told us that if we passed by the sect of all times, we should visit you on her behalf." Hearing the words Senior apprentice Sister Fong, Lu Qianqian's eyes flashed with a cold light, but she quickly concealed it. She said, "Go back and tell her that I'm doing well, and that she doesn't need to worry about me." The woman smiled and said, "I also believe that in this place where the spiritual energy is so thin, you must be doing much better than Senior apprentice Sister Fong of Sky Ice Heart Palace." "Oh, that's right." She paused and said, "Senior apprentice Sister Fong has already been nominated as a Taishan Shengzong elder. If she hadn't been expelled, this position should have been yours." "I don't care," Lu Qianqian said. The woman's eyes flashed with disgust. "You're still so cold even after so many years. I wonder how the disciples of the sect of all times endure it." "Senior apprentice sister," the man said. "Senior apprentice Sister Fong has already passed on her message. Let's go." Jun Patriarch. He cupped his hands together and said, "Farewell." "Xiao Maxian," Jun Changshao said. "Send them off for me." "Yes." Xiao Maxian jumped over. Two bursts of energy erupted from her hands, instantly binding the two Taishan Shengzong disciples. Then, she flew to the highest point and ruthlessly threw them down the mountain. The man and woman plummeted down like cannonballs, their expressions marvelous beyond compare. Shua! Shua! Just as they were about to touch the ground, Xiao Maxian had already taken a step forward. Her two small hands gently caught them and she brightly smiled. "Is this convenient?" Puff! The man and woman stood where they were and began to vomit. Their legs began to shake uncontrollably. Finally, they were unable to stand firm and sat down on the ground. The superiority, temperament, and pride that came from a large sect had long since disappeared along with their fall. Chapter 742. Senior Apprentice Sister Lu, you're so amazing. Senior Apprentice Sister Lu, this junior apprentice sister doesn't know much about cultivation. Can you teach me? Senior Apprentice Sister Lu, with your growth speed, you'll definitely become a sect elder in the future. Senior Apprentice Sister Lu. On the peak of the back mountain, Lu Qianqian stood proudly. The words of her fellow disciples who had been pestering her in the profound sacred sect echoed in her ears. Frost gradually condensed on her jade-like face. The woman that Xiao Maxian sent away was one of her fellow disciples, who had once asked her about martial arts. To be exact, she was one of her former admirers. Unfortunately, he had violated the rules of the sect and was expelled from the sect. The fellow disciples who had once surrounded him seemed to have changed their faces and hearts. Phew! Lu Qianqian gently exhaled. She waved her sleeves and was about to leave when she saw Jun Changshao sitting on a rock beside her. Gotcha! She took a bite of the apple and chewed. If you have any troubles, you can find someone to talk to. Perhaps you'll feel better this way. This disciple has no troubles. Lu Qianqian turned and left. When she brushed past Jun Changshao, she heard him say, "Why were you expelled?" "I made a mistake." "What mistake did you make?" "I made a mistake that I shouldn't have." Jun Chang smiled and said, "I once asked you about your past, and your answer was that knowing too much about some things isn't necessarily a good thing. Instead, it's a disaster." Lu Qianqian was silent, because she had said it before. Jun Changshao took another bite of the apple and said, "It doesn't seem so scary now. Patriarch, don't doubt the strength of a first-rate sect just because you won the Dragon Tiger battle," Lu Qianqian said. "In terms of overall strength, our sect of all times is far from these top sections. But in terms of disciples, we can still compete," Jun Changshao said. "Besides, you've been expelled, so you have nothing to do with the Taishan Xingzong anymore. Do you think they'll deliberately cause trouble for you?" Lu Qianqian said, "As long as someone still hates me, there will be trouble." "Are you referring to senior apprentice Sister Fang?" Jun Changshao asked. Lu Qianqian didn't explain. Jun Changshao said, "The two Taishan Xingzong disciples just now were a bit annoying. I've already ordered Xiao Mu and the others to secretly follow them and find a chance to beat them up." Lu Qianqian. She wasn't surprised. "Or you don't care." Lu Qianqian's words is this. "I Qianqian Shengzongs, I'll go back first." Lu Qianqian was about to leave when she heard Jun Changshao say, "Don't be like Xingchen. Think of leaving the sect and running away after being discovered. Even if the sky falls, there's still the 187 tall patriarch to hold it up. Is the extra 7 centimeters because of your high heels?" The system complained. "Scram. I understand." Lu Qianqian left. Jun Changshao sat for a while, threw away the apple core, and went to the drizzle hall. As soon as he walked in, Li Luoqiu said before he could speak, "I've already ordered the members to gather information on the Taishan Shengzong as soon as possible, as well as the senior apprentice Sister Fang that woman mentioned." "You understand me," Jun Changshao said. Li Luoqiu said, "I also understand that the patriarch's concern for the eldest disciple is far greater than the other disciples." "Is that so?" Jun Changshao scratched his head and said, "I've always been fair and just to my disciples. I won't show any favoritism." Creak. The prison cell opened, and Jun Changshao walked in and said, "Have you thought about it?" The Purple King, who was lying on the ground, gritted its teeth and said, "Despicable human, listen to me, the beast race will never." I know. Jun Changshao stopped it and waved his hand. Ihei and Ariai walked in with a sumptuous meal and quickly filled the entire table. The Purple King, who was still very weak, smelled the fragrance and immediately became spirited. It stood up with difficulty and sat down without hesitation. During this period, although it was bombarded every day, eating Lu Wansher's cooking made it fat. Jun Changshao poured wine for it and said, "Actually, as long as you pledge allegiance to me, I won't treat you badly. At least I'll provide food and shelter." The purple craggy monster monarch ignored him and continued eating. After finishing all the delicious food, it drank a mouthful of wine and said, "Come, let's continue." "Take it away," Jun Changshao said. Boom! The sound of cannons came from the back of the mountain. Not long after, the Purple King was dragged back to the prison cell. Jun Changshao was not in a hurry. In his opinion, as long as this guy's stomach was captured by delicious food, even if the stone in the toilet was smelly and hard, it could be subdued. Patriarch were back. The next day, Su Xiaoma, Li Fei, and the others returned to the sect with smiles on their faces. They quietly followed behind the man and woman. When they left southwest Yangzhou and entered a deep mountain forest, they deliberately attracted a large number of ferocious beasts. Although the move was a bit old-fashioned, the effect was not bad. Although the two Taishan Shengzong disciples were strong, they were besieged by countless ferocious beasts, and paid a great price to barely break out of the encirclement. This time, they accidentally passed by the Sect of all times on behalf of senior sister Fang, and ridiculed Lu Qianqian. In the end, they returned to the Sect with injuries all over their bodies, which was a relatively good ending. Hall Master Li was very efficient. In just a few days, she collected information on the Taishan Shengzong Patriarch, she reported. The senior sister Fang that the woman mentioned should be Fang Lingyu, the most outstanding new disciple of the Taishan Shengzong. Does she have a grudge against Lu Qianqian? Jun Changxiao asked. Li Luoqiu shook her head and said, I can't find out for now. Drizzle Hall could only obtain information on the sect, but it was only one-sided. As for the matters between the disciples, no one talked about it, so there was no way to find out. Pay more attention to this woman, Jun Changxiao said. Yes. Huff huff. In the wing room of the inner court, the momentum of advancement increased. Nearly 100 disciples successfully broke through to the Martial King realm with the help of the Martial King pills. The Sect of all times had more and more Martial King realm disciples now, but they were still a little lacking in Martial Emperors. I said 4. Jun Changxiao broke down and said, Can't you use more strength and break through to the Martial Emperor realm quickly? Patriarch, we're already using a lot of strength. Jiangya was speechless and said, But it's really difficult to break through to the Martial Emperor realm without a higher understanding of martial arts. He and the Ning brothers had reached the peak of the Martial King realm a long time ago, but after so long, there was still no sign of them breaking through to the Martial Emperor realm. Sigh. Jun Changxiao sighed. Things like breaking through to the next realm could not be rushed. Forget it. Jun Changxiao said. Let's go and recuperate first. He chose a day and entered the space-time secret realm, but before he left, he specifically told Su Xiaoma not to give the Purple King any food, and to starve it for a few days. Of course, the bombardment continued every day. With an extremely durable target, Xiao Ziji's proficiency in artillery kept increasing. He could even accurately fire while moving at high speed. No matter how much he was bombarded, the Purple King did not care. But what he could not tolerate was that his food was cut off. Grumble, grumble. In the dungeon, the Purple King's stomach failed to live up to his expectations and said weakly, I'm so hungry. His stomach had been nourished by Lu Wanshi. After not eating for 2 days, he became even weaker than when he was bombarded. Was he eating food or illegal poison? On the 4th day, the smell of food drifted in from the window. The Purple King struggled to stand up, but his hands weakly grabbed the cold iron window and said, This king wants to eat. This king wants to eat. Eating is fine. Jun Changxiao's voice came, Submit to me. You. The Purple King immediately understood that this guy was deliberately using food to force him to submit. So he angrily said, This king will never submit to a human, even if I starve to death. Then continue to starve, Jun Changxiao said. And so, the Purple King was starved for another 3 days. The most unlucky one was Zhao Daodu, because he was also starving. During this period, he could only use water to satisfy his hunger. Big brother, you want to torture this spirit beast. Why did you bring me along? Creak. The next day, the door opened and the long-awaited sunlight shone in. Su Xiaoma walked in and placed a bowl of fried rice on the table. He waved at Zhao Daodu and said, Come and eat. Shua. When Zhao Daodu, who was originally exhausted, heard the word eat, he immediately stood up and rushed to the table. He didn't even take his chopsticks, and directly grabbed the rice with his hands to eat. The Purple King also wanted to go over, but was stopped by Su Xiaoma and said, You don't have a share. Munch munch. Zhao Daodu, who had been starving for several days, wolfed down the bowl of fried rice. He ate until tears almost flowed out. Gulp. The Purple King swallowed his saliva. Although he tried hard to turn his head and not look at that guy eating, his eyeballs were honestly moving in the opposite direction. So satisfying. After eating the fried rice, Zhao Daoda touched his stomach and lay on the wooden board. He felt that his life had reached the peak. He felt that his life had reached the peak. Damn it. The Purple King waited for Su Xiaoma to leave and walked to the table with difficulty. When he saw that there wasn't even a grain of rice in the bowl, his eyes turned red with anger. Next, the disciples of the sect of all times would give Zhao Daoda a bowl of fried rice as promised. He was craving for it. Endure. This king will endure. What a delicacy. One day, when Zhao Daoda lay down after eating the fried rice, the Purple King walked over again. When he saw that there was still a grain of rice left in the bowl, his eyes lit up. He tried hard to pick up the bowl and leaned his head over. At this moment, a voice sounded in his left ear. You are the Purple King. You are the king of the beast race. Why would you bend over a grain of rice? Listen to me and break the bowl. Yes, this king is the king of the beast race. I must persevere. Just as the Purple King was about to raise the bowl, a voice sounded in his right ear. Humans have a saying. A great man can stretch and bend. Now that you are in a desperate situation, you must think of a way to survive to have a chance to see the light of day again. Break it. Eat it. The two voices quarreled in his ear. The Purple King's expression was hideous as he was caught in a dilemma. In the end, he shook his head to make the two voices disappear completely. Then he stuck out his tongue and touched the grain of rice on the side of the bowl. He stuck it and retracted it, although it was only one grain of rice. But with the combination of ingredients, it emitted the most stimulating taste. Boom! The Purple King was struck by lightning again. His burnt hair stood on end again. His soul ran under the setting sun again, chasing after the youth and childhood that had passed away. Too delicious, too delicious. The Purple King put down the bowl and pressed his hands on the table. He tried hard to support his weak body. Bean-sized tears dripped down. Smack! A bowl of piping hot fried rice appeared in his field of vision. Jun Changshao stood at the side and pushed forward with his hand, saying, I have changed my mind. I don't want you to submit. I only want you to enter the sect of all times. Enter the sect of all times? The Purple King tried hard to raise his head. His eyes flashed with anger, saying, What's the difference between this and submitting? There's a difference. Jun Changshao said. If you submit, you'll be a servant. If you enter the sect, you'll be a disciple. The beast race will never be slaves. The Purple King said. Jun Changshao pushed the fried rice forward again, saying, I will provide food and accommodation. You're insulting a beast race king. The Purple King said angrily. Jun Changshao said, The fried rice is in front of you now. If you agree, eat it. If you don't, I'll knock it over. The decision is yours. The Purple King lowered his head and looked at the bowl of piping hot fried rice. He made a difficult decision in his heart. Jun Patriarch. Zhao Daoda said weakly, he won't eat it. I'll eat it. Then eat it, Jun Changshao said. Zhao Daoda hurried over and was about to take the bowl of fried rice with a grin. The Purple King suddenly turned his head and said with a sharp gaze, Scram. Smack. He sat down and picked up his chopsticks. He looked at Jun Changshao and said, Let's make a deal. I'll only be a disciple, not a slave. I'll provide food and accommodation, Jun Changshao said. The Purple King couldn't hold back anymore and started eating in big mouthfuls. When the fried rice grains rolled in his mouth, the impact of the delicious food made him feel like he was running into the depths of the universe to chase after the dignity that was gradually fading away. Smack! Jun Changshao took out the entry form and wrote, The Purple King obviously can't be used as a name. Let's use Zisu instead. The Purple King ignored him and continued eating his fried rice. After a while he finished it clean and said, Another bowl. Jun Changshao put the entry form in front of him and handed him some ink. Put your fingerprint on your name. There's a big pot of fried rice in the kitchen. Eat as much as you want. Hearing that there was a big pot, the Purple King's eyes lit up. He didn't hesitate to put his fingerprint on the name Zisu. Ding! Sect member 200-015-0000. Jun Changshao took back the entry form and said to himself, Finally, I've taken this guy down. Xiaomu, hurry up and untie your junior brother's leg chains. Yes. Ka ka ka. The chains that bound the Purple King's legs were untied. It staggered out of the cell. Because it was noon and the sun was a little hot, it couldn't get used to it, and reached out to block the sun. Damn human. This king will first pretend to be a snake. Wait until my body recovers. Wait until I regain my strength. Then I'll trample you and your sect's disciples under my feet. Smack. Suddenly, a pair of underwear flew over and hit the Purple King's face. Jun Changshao said, "Toothpick, don't keep it exposed outside." This was a pair of indestructible underwear from Supreme Goods. Not only was it triangular, but it was also red. It should be the same as Superman's. Smack smack smack. The Purple King sat in the cafeteria and ate fried rice in big mouthfuls. Because it was already wearing sexy underwear, readers can remove the mosaics themselves. 1 black and 2 black kept putting all kinds of delicacies on the table. After Lu Wancher was done, she sat beside it and smiled. "Senior sister's cooking is delicious, right?" Purple Craggy Monster Monarch stopped and asked, "You made this?" "Yes," Lu Wancher said. "Since you've become a Sect's disciple, I'll be in charge of your food in the future." The Purple King didn't say anything else and ate all kinds of delicacies. Its soul kept running under the setting sun. But the dignity of the beast race's king was chasing it further and further away. Chapter 743. Beasts will never be slaves. Sorry, I'm only a disciple, not a slave. Even if I starve to death, I won't eat. I'm sorry, but this king is enduring humiliation for the sake of the imperial dynasty. Just like that, the Purple King, who couldn't resist the temptation of delicious food, compromised and became a disciple of the sect of all times. Are you new? I'm in charge of closing the door. You're in charge of opening the door. In front of the door, the Purple King and He Wudi stood opposite each other. They were like two door gods. Jun Changshao was still a little worried. He was afraid that the Purple King wasn't sincere and would leave after his injuries were healed. Such a person who could take a beating and control beasts, he couldn't let him leave. "Little girl," Jun Changshao reminded her, "I'll leave this guy to you. Make good food for him every day, so that he won't be able to free himself." The only thing he could do now was to use delicious food to tempt him. Lu Wancher nodded. In this aspect she was very confident. Right. After returning to the main hall, Jun Changshao muttered, "This little girl cooks for the sect every day. She should have a lot of merit points, right?" He opened the system panel and clicked on the Lingyan Pavilion. He found Lu Wancher's name and matched it. The merit points that appeared was 100, and the confirm button appeared. As expected, Jun Changshao said in surprise, "The little girl has also worked hard and made great contributions." Of course, she was the one who prepared the sect's 3 meals a day. Although this little girl's martial arts aren't outstanding, she contributed a lot to the sect. She has to have one of these 24 spots. Jun Changshao clicked on confirm, and a bunch of options appeared. Lu Wancher was already very busy managing so many people's meals every day. Thus, after thinking about it, he chose the skip button at the end. "The host still has some conscience," the system said. Jun Changshao ignored it and thought to himself, "When Xiao Ziji meets the conditions, I'll give him the right to operate the Foundry Pavilion. When Su Xiaoma meets the conditions, I'll give him the right to operate the Charm Pavilion." In order to be a handsome and elegant hands-off shopkeeper in the future, he had already made arrangements for his disciples in advance. After Jun Changshao made his choice, Lu Wancher, who was preparing ingredients in the kitchen, suddenly emitted a majestic aura. "What's the situation?" The little girl felt that her hands were a little warm. Thus, when he looked up, he saw white smoke rising from his hands, as if they were about to burst into flames. "It's going to catch fire?" Lu Wancher widened her eyes. Although she was surprised by the sudden situation, she did not panic. Although her hands were hot, she did not feel any pain. In fact, she felt a little comfortable. Huff huff, his palm, which was getting hotter and hotter, suddenly burst into flames. "Patriarch, patriarch!" Lu Wancher dragged her hands that were covered in flames and ran to the main hall. She exclaimed, My hands are on fire. Jun Changxiao was very surprised. He, who had the body of holy flame, could feel that the flames on the little girl's hands were not condensed from the 5 elements heaven reflection art. The system said, "This is the stove god flame." Stove god flame? Simply put, this flame is very rare. It is not weaker than some divine-grade fire seeds. However, its use is not for fighting but for cooking. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Then it is useless. The system said, "It is useless for someone like you who only knows how to cook instant noodles. However, for Lu Wanshi, who is proficient in cooking, it is definitely a priceless treasure." That's true. Wow! At this moment Lu Wanshi screamed, "Patriarch, look! There are words on the back of my hands." Jun Changxiao hurriedly looked over and saw that the stove god flame was gradually weakening. The word stove appeared on the back of the little girl's hand, and then it slowly disappeared. He opened the purple smoke pavilion and saw that the paper with Lu Wanshi's name had a picture of her cooking on it. At the same time, there was a large word stove on it. He understood. Any disciple who entered the Lingyam pavilion would have a word as a code name. The little girl was in charge of the cafeteria, so she was given the word stove. Wait! At this moment, Jun Changxiao was shocked to see that there was a small line of words under the picture. It said, "Merit points 500-1000. How could there be merit points? How did the limit increase from 100 to 1000? Jun Changxiao hurriedly looked at Li Qingyang's picture and found that there were merit points under it. But it was only 500 and 1000. The system said, "It seems that disciples who enter the purple smoke pavilion have a chance to level up." Jun Changxiao shook his head. Qingyang and Dudu should be able to get 1000 points. As for Qianqian and Xingqian, they should be thanking the gods if they can get 100 points. Patriarch, Lu Wanshi said excitedly, "I have a new fire seed in my body." Jun Changxiao said, "That is the rare stove god flame. It will be very helpful for your cooking." Is that so? Although Lu Wanshi didn't know about the stove god flame, she was happy that it was helpful for her cooking. "I will try it." The little girl hurriedly returned to the kitchen and communicated with the fire seed in her body. Flames burst out from her palms and merged with the stove. At that moment, Lu Wanshi felt the temperature of the pot and everything in it. "I feel like I am the stove." Sizzle. Lu Wanshi poured oil and waited for the pot to heat up. Then, she picked up the kitchen knife with her left hand and threw in the green pepper and ginger slices. She was already very familiar with the stove god flame and could accurately grasp the best taste of the ingredients in the oil. So magical, Lu Wanshi was shocked. A moment later, a plate of shredded pork with green pepper was done. She hurriedly called Jun Changxiao over and said, "Patriarch, try it. I can tell it's a delicacy just by smelling it." Jun Changxiao picked up the chopsticks and took a bite. He stood there and felt as if his soul had flown into the sunset to chase his dreams. Ta! The Purple King took a step into the cafeteria. The tip of his nose sniffed the fragrant scent that swept over him, and he almost floated over with his feet off the ground. "Junior brother, come and try it too," Lu Wanshi said with a smile. The Purple King walked over, picked up the chopsticks and took a bite. Then, his purple hair stood on end, and his soul flew into the sunset. As a result, in the cafeteria, Jun Changxiao and the Purple King walked in circles around the dining table. They seemed to have fallen into an infinite fantasy. "You are the wind and I am the sand, entangling and lingering around the world." Lu Wanshi, who stayed in the Lingyam pavilion, was bestowed with the word stove. Although she didn't increase her realm or spirit root, she obtained the most powerful stove god flame. This flame provided the user with a strong sense of perception during the cooking process, allowing them to perfectly control the seasoning, food, and heat. Lu Wanshi was overjoyed. She was very confident about the god of cookery competition in the future. Of course, the benefits were not limited to the perfect quality of the dishes. It would also be of great help to her research on how to increase her strength in the future. The happiest people were the disciples of the sect of all times, because every bowl of rice and every plate of dishes were delicacies that left an endless aftertaste. In the future, When it was time to eat, they would definitely see the Purple King anxiously waiting in the cafeteria. Without a doubt, this guy's stomach had already completely fallen. June Patriarch didn't have to worry. As long as Lu Wanshi was the hall master of the dining hall, the Purple King would be a disciple of the sect of all times. Chapter 744. With the help of the stove god fire, Lu Wanshi's culinary skills improved greatly. The ones who benefited the most were naturally the disciples of the sect of all times. Because they had delicious food every day, their cultivation was much better. Another example was the Purple King. After being bombarded for so long, he looked a little haggard. After eating Lu Wanshi's food for a few days, he suddenly became lively. It could even be described as a rebirth. Girl. One day, the Purple King opened the door and slipped into the kitchen. Can you give this king a special meal? Junior brother. Lu Wanshi held the spoon and said seriously, how many times have I told you, don't call me king, call me. Okay, me. The Purple King smiled with a trembling face. Sigh. This demon who died before he even started his apprenticeship was completely convinced by Lu Wanshi's culinary skills. What do you want to eat? I'll eat whatever you make. I'm not picky. Go to the cafeteria and wait. Okay. The Purple King hurriedly sat in the cafeteria. When he thought about being able to eat delicious food again, his saliva flowed out. The dishes are here. After a while, Lu Wanshi served 2 dishes. One was shredded potatoes. The other was stir-fried bean sprouts. The purple craggy monster monarch had a mental breakdown. Why are they all vegetarian? Not eating? Lu Wanshi said. Then I'll take it away. Don't. The Purple King hurriedly stopped her. He picked up the chopsticks and smiled. I'll eat. Although berserk beasts mainly ate meat, under the corrosion of Lu Wanshi's home-cooked food, they still showed exaggerated expressions. Too delicious. Ong. In the training room, Xiao Ziji punched the testing machine. Seeing the increase in strength, he said, Junior sister, eating a mouthful of your strength fried rice has the same effect as eating a bowl. That's great. Lu Wanshi jumped up happily. After obtaining the stove god fire, the little girl took the time to study food. First, she improved the strength fried rice. In the past, it would only increase after eating an entire bowl of strength fried rice. Now eating a mouthful gave her the same amount of strength. It was definitely a breakthrough. Not bad. Jun Changxiao said. Continue to work hard and create more meals to make our fellow disciples stronger. Yes. With the patriarch's praise and encouragement, Lu Wanshi started to challenge a brand new and unknown field. Her next step was to research a defensive and speed-type fried rice. After the space-time secret territory's cooldown was over, Jun Changxiao entered it once more. When he came out, his cultivation base had completely recovered. His entire person had become sharper than before. I can finally crush the experience talisman. After defeating the Grand Evolution Sacred Ancestor in the Dragon Tiger battle for supremacy, he obtained 2 experience talismans, which raised his cultivation to the 5th grade. Now that he had 4 more, he crushed them and successfully broke through to the 7th grade. Other people had to put in a lot of effort to break through. However, he could easily break through with the help of talismans, which could really make all Wu Huang jealous. What was there to be envious about? Didn't I exchange it for managing the sect? Boom. In the training room, Jun Changxiao gathered his strength and directly punched the testing machine. As a result, a bunch of random codes appeared. He was stunned and said, Did my punch break it? The system said, the testing machine's strength evaluation has an upper limit. If it exceeds the upper limit, it won't be displayed accurately. I see. Moreover, if the host fights with a strong opponent at his current level, unless he has overwhelming strength, it's very difficult to determine the outcome of the battle through pure strength value. That's true. After Jun Changxiao broke through to the Emperor tier, his use of the heaven and earth attribute in Qi domain could not be measured by the value at all. The higher the level, the more important the momentum and moves in battle. For example, the palm print that bombarded Yi Xingqian could not be measured by strength value. The pressure and deep heaven and earth attribute contained in it were already terrifying to the extreme. Give me a few more contribution points to break through to the peak of the Emperor tier and activate the epic mission. After completing it, I'll enter the Saint tier in one go, Jun Changxiao said. The system reminded, the host's understanding of Sword Dao is now limited to the Emperor tier. Without a higher level, breaking through to the Saint tier is undoubtedly a fantasy. No problem, I can respawn. Since the store had beginner and middle grade Sword Dao aptitude fluid, there must be upper grade, and divine grade ones. As long as they respawned and were consumed, he would have them. Good luck, the system said. In the past 2 months, Ironbone Town had developed at an extremely fast speed. Not only did it have a large number of permanent residents, but various stores had also opened one after another. Food, drinks, clothes, toys, and necessities were all available. This toys referred to fun, so don't overthink it. Aunt Wang had transformed into the shopkeeper of the Yunlai Inn. The other villagers of Qingyang village had also started businesses, such as a butcher shop, a steamed bun shop, and so on. Help the needy, not the poor. Jun Changxiao had given them permanent residency and a big house. Whether they could live in the town in the future depended on themselves. The previous batch of disciples who had passed the assessment, but were not accepted into the sect of all times, also gathered here one after another, waiting to become a disciple of the sect of all times. The AI family's medicine store and auction house branch opened for business. The first auction attracted a large number of foreign martial artists. Aunt Wang's Inn was crowded with guests. If they could not help, the sect of all times disciples would come over to help. Of course, it was also for the sect's mission. The entire Ironbone town became lively as more and more guests came in and out. Occasionally, when they saw the sect of all times disciples in their bright school uniforms, their eyes would always be filled with respect and envy. Jun Changxiao, who was lying on the roof of the mansion, chewed on a green foxtail. He looked at the martial artists on the street and smiled. He did not expect that building a town would give him a sense of accomplishment, as well as developing a sect. Patriarch Li Luoqiu transmitted her voice. Second young Master Tang is here to visit. This Ironbone town, which is located at the foot of the sect of all times, has great prospects for development. The AI family's auction house is located in the town. The auction at the beginning of every month is also set there. It will definitely attract many martial artists in the long run. No, I have to think of a way to get a store there and extend my family's business there. The Yangzhou families in the southwest who had business foresight had estimated that Ironbone Town would definitely have unlimited potential in the future. Therefore, they all used their connections in hopes of purchasing a piece of land. Unfortunately, Jun Changxiao was very strict in his selection. He only allowed the relatives of his disciples and some of the business families in the Qingyang County to move in. There was almost no hope for outsiders to enter. The more it was so, the more the families were tempted. Gradually, it became an extremely glorious thing to be able to enter Ironbone Town and open a business there. A few days later, a shocking news spread throughout the continent. The second young master of the Tang family in the Great Sage Imperial City officially announced that the Tang Pharmacy would open in Ironbone Town. The wealthy Tang family actually opened a pharmacy in Ironbone Town. The Tang Pharmacy has been unusually popular recently. Many big cities in the states and counties have not opened a branch yet, but a small town has already opened one. This is really unexpected. Not long after, another piece of news spread. The Tang family only opened a Tang Pharmacy branch in Ironbone Town. The smart business families immediately realized that the second young master of the Tang family must have discussed with the sect of all times. Otherwise, he would not only open a branch in the southwest Yangzhou. The elixirs sold by the Tang Pharmacy have long been famous in the 9 states. The Ironbone Town in the southwest Yangzhou is the only one with a branch. It will definitely attract more martial artists to buy it, which will stimulate the various businesses in the town. Ironbone Town is going to explode. After the second young master of the Tang family made the announcement, the large forces and families in the southwest Yangzhou, who had long wanted to buy elixirs, rushed over. Even the martial artists from the nearby southern Desolate State and western Cloud State came. The newly built town was filled with people. The degree of prosperity was not inferior to the historical Qingyang city. Chapter 745. The Tang family pill store was set up in the newly built Ironbone town, and the influence it brought was extremely huge. In terms of distance, the Ironbone town was obviously more convenient than the central sovereign state. Since the surrounding states and counties had needs, they would definitely not give up on the near and seek the far. The Ironbone town, which had a large family business, immediately attracted martial warriors from all over the world. As long as they came in, they would definitely have to spend money. Not to mention buying supplies, they would at least need food and lodging. Therefore, the inn that Aunt Wang brought over was full every day, and the business was extremely good. The town was only in the development stage. First, it was to build a reputation and attract traffic. When it reached a certain scale in the future, Jun Changxiao would definitely think of a way to profit from it. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren sat in the hall of the mansion and laughed. The pill store that is set up here, my Tang family is only in name. All the profits will belong to your sect. In order to befriend Jun Changxiao on a deeper level, he did not care about profits. After all, he could still continue to develop in other states. Moreover, as the pill business became more and more popular, the old man would often look for him to talk. Occasionally, they would discuss the business and the family's future business plans. Tang Ren was clear that he had received recognition. If it was in the past, although he would occasionally be called over, it would not be so frequent. Coming to the southwest Yangzhou to visit the sect of all times was the right move. It was the right move. Cousin uncle, thank you for being merciful and giving me this remote sect. Otherwise, how could I gradually gain the old man's recognition? Jun Changxiao cupped his hands and said, Jun will accept your invitation. Heh, this guy wasn't modest at all. Tang Ren said. Jun Patriarch, this Tang also operates other businesses. I wonder if it is possible to set up a branch in the Ironbone town? He could see that Jun Changxiao wanted to develop the Ironbone town. With the AI family's auction house and pill store, the prospects for development were extremely good, and there was also investment value. No problem, Jun Changxiao said. Since he wanted to create a martial arts holy land for the world to worship, the Ironbone town had to be well equipped. The Tang family's various businesses would undoubtedly attract more attention. A few days later, Tang Ren's main business set up a branch in the Ironbone town. There were weapon shops and armor shops, but the main attraction was naturally the Spirit Stone shop. This was a newly established town, and there weren't even enough permanent residents. Yet, all the facilities were already complete. It was truly amazing. TSK. Many warriors who entered the town walked on the main street that was filled with all kinds of martial arts shops. All of them exclaimed, I'm afraid that the cities in the provinces and counties are nothing more than this. Patriarch, Li Qingyang said. The town is a little small, but it can be expanded at any time. There's no rush, Jun Changxiao said. One step at a time, one step at a time. Right now, his main focus was still on the development of the sect. Once the town was built, he would just let nature take its course. Go and call Ziming over, Jun Changxiao said. Yes. Li Qingyang retreated. Not long after he left, the Purple King walked in with a toothpick in his mouth. He seemed to be having a good time. Jun Changxiao saw that he was wearing red underwear and asked, Where's your school uniform? It's not comfortable. The Purple King said, I took it off. Jun Changxiao broke down and said, Are you an exhibitionist? If you have something to say, say it. If not, I'm going to stand guard, the Purple King said. Knowing that this guy was a spirit beast and a little unruly, Jun Changxiao didn't mind. Instead, he asked seriously, What egg are you talking about? The Purple King, who was originally quite arrogant, almost had the urge to squat in a corner and cry when he heard the word egg. Damn it! If it wasn't for this egg, would this king have ended up like this? But then again, that was not the case. It didn't seem to be a loss to eat the food cooked by the little girl every day. The king was no longer the king of the past. In just a few days, he had forgotten his ambition for the throne. The egg I'm talking about is the egg guarded by the fire dragon, the purple king said. It was indeed related to the little dragon. Jun Changshao asked curiously, "You laid that egg?" The purple king's expression suddenly froze. Then he couldn't control his emotions and roared, "I'm a male. How can I lay an egg?" "Then who laid it?" Jun Changshao asked. The purple king calmed down and said angrily, "I picked up this egg." "Where did you pick it up?" "The upper realm." "The upper realm?" Jun Changshao's eyes were filled with astonishment. He said, "Come, tell me everything. If you hide anything, don't come to the cafeteria to eat in the future." The purple king said angrily, "You're threatening me." "Yes." The purple king clenched his fist. He thought about how he would live in the future if he couldn't eat Lu Wansher's food. Sigh. He sighed and said, "It's like this." The purple king was not a native of the Falling Star continent. He came from the upper realm. Unlike Hewudi, who was forced to come down because he couldn't take out the secret manual, he committed some crimes. Back then, he heard from someone that eating dragon eggs could improve his skills for thousands of years. So he sneaked to the dragon clan's territory to steal the eggs. The eggs had been stolen, but they had also been discovered. The Purple King's strength was absolutely invincible in the lower realm at that time. But he definitely couldn't defeat the Dragon Clan powerhouses. He could only activate the fugitive mode. On the way, no matter how he boiled or stewed the eggs, he couldn't even break them open. Not only did his strength not improve, but he was also chased by the Dragon Clan powerhouses all over the world. This was undoubtedly a tragedy. In desperation, he could only forcefully tear open space and escape to the Falling Star continent. However, during the process of traveling, he was inevitably bound by heaven and earth. His realm was suppressed to a miserable state. So, Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. He said, "You stole a dragon egg." "It's not just a dragon egg," the Purple King said seriously. "Later, when I was escaping, I heard that it was a 5-clawed dragon egg that only appears once in 100,000 years. Once it hatches, it can cultivate for tens of thousands of years and become the emperor of the Dragon Clan." Jun Changshao heard this and suddenly widened his eyes. He had previously fantasized that the parents of the original owner of this body might be mighty beings, and that he was hiding his identity. He didn't expect that the little dragon was hiding a secret. No wonder this little guy can condense the 5-clawed dragon form. It's not an illusion, but a real body. Jun Changshao understood. Creatures like dragons were definitely the top. The 5-clawed dragon was a symbol of imperial power. It was really cool to have it become his contract beast. "You stole a future emperor of the Dragon Clan. You deserve it when they chase you all over the world," Jun Changshao said. At the mention of this, the Purple King had the urge to cry. "I just wanted to improve my strength, and then lead my subordinates to conquer the world. In the end, I stole a 5-clawed dragon egg of all things. After causing such a big mess, I couldn't stay in the upper realm anymore. I could only come to the lower realm to lie low for a while. The worst thing was, when I was almost healed in the Falling Star continent, I gathered the local beasts and prepared to do something big. Before I could do anything, I was suppressed by Wu Sheng." "And then?" Jun Changshao asked. The Purple King continued to speak. "In fact, there was nothing else after that. It just brought the egg down and tried to break it open, fantasizing about eating it to improve its power. However, it failed repeatedly. Before it was sealed, it came up with a bad idea to hatch it with a fire dragon." Jun Changshao broke down. "Come on, although both of them have the word dragon, they're not even the same species. It's not like I'm at my wit's end," the Purple King said frantically. In those years, no one could understand the embarrassment of being chased by so many dragon powerhouses because of the egg. No one could understand the pain of looking at an egg to quench one's thirst. And this was the youth that had once passed away. Jun Changshao took a sip of tea and said with a smile, "It's all thanks to your idea that I inadvertently obtained a 5-clawed dragon egg and a contract beast with such an awesome identity." The purple barrow demon was shocked. The egg hatched. Chapter 746. Standing in the patriarch's study. The Purple King's mouth twitched as he looked at the little dragon that resembled both a snake and a lizard. This was hatched from a 5-clawed dragon egg. Yes. Jun Changshao nodded. The Purple King spread his legs and pointed at the little dragon. His expression was crumbling as he roared. Who are you kidding? It's obviously a lizard. He must have seen the true form of a dragon in the upper realm. It was impossible for a 5-clawed dragon egg to hatch such a thing. Unless what was stolen was not a dragon egg but a century egg. It hatched from the egg you stole, there's no doubt about that. Jun Changshao said. If he had not seen the little dragon transform into its 5-clawed form, he might have doubted whether that fellow stole the wrong egg. Maybe. Jun Changshao paused and said. Something went wrong during the incubation process. The Purple King asked, what went wrong? Jun Changshao did not explain to it. However, he guessed that the little dragon's current body did not look like a dragon, and it was most likely due to him using the incubator to hatch it and forcefully mutating it. If that was the case, the little dragon's true identity should be a mutated 5-clawed dragon. It was originally the most noble species of the dragon clan. If it mutated again, it would be terrible. As its master, would it not follow its master and ascend to the heavens? The system said. This description is very beautiful. Impossible, impossible. The Purple King said firmly. This is definitely not an egg I stole. You must be lying to me. He had risked his life to steal an egg in the upper realm, and imagined that eating it could improve his skills. He would never accept that it hatched, and would never accept that it hatched into such a thing. If it was a 5-clawed dragon, it would have accepted that it was hunted by the dragon clan for a long time, and was forced to descend to the lower realm. However, it had fallen to such a state because of a century egg. This blow was unbearable. Master, the little dragon said lazily, who's this naked fellow? Because he had not figured out the reason, Jun Changshao did not let it meet the Purple King. Same kind. Same kind. Little dragon squinted its eyes and said, I can see the contempt in its eyes. It had to be done. If it was a 5-clawed dragon, the Purple King might be a little afraid, but a small lizard was nothing to him. Little fellow, it said proudly, you should call me king. King. Little Longlong's eyes narrowed into a line, and his skin turned even redder than before. What? The Purple King straightened his back and said proudly, you're still not convinced? Master, Little Longlong asked, can I control him? Mess with me? The Purple King smiled. Even if this guy was a 5-clawed dragon, he was still in his infancy stage. Forget about him in his peak state. He could even press him down on the ground with one hand. Jun Changshao said, my contracted beast wants to fight with you. The Purple King said indifferently, to be frank, only Xiao Ziji's weapon can hurt me in the sect. Who else is qualified to fight me? Boom, before he could finish, his face suddenly tilted, and his body flew out of the window like a cannonball. Ka. His face slid more than 10 feet away on the stone floor of the training ground. Jun Changshao retracted his fist and said, I can do it. The Purple King, who stood up from the training ground, covered his burning face, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. This human clearly didn't have any martial aura. How did he suddenly become so strong? And from the power of that punch, he was probably not inferior to the human peak Wu Huang. During this period of time, he had already recovered, and it was time to find trouble. Coincidentally, Jun Patriarch had also recovered, and even advanced by 2 ranks. He could still beat this guy. Let's go to the training ground in the outer court. Jun Changshao walked out and said, you two can spar. The Purple King shook his head and said indignantly, do I look so weak that any Tom, Dick, or Harry dares to bully me? While thinking, he had already walked to the outer court. As he looked at the small lizard following behind Jun Changshao, the disdain in his eyes grew even stronger. No, I have to show them my strength in this sect, and let them know how terrifying I am. As the king of the beast race, even if I'm immersed in delicious food, I have to establish my prestige since I'm here. Stupid humans. You can only look up to this king's strength. Huff huff. The moment he walked out of the outer court, The Purple King immediately released an invisible aura. That was the dignity of a king of the beast race that couldn't be trampled on. Master. Little Long Long looked back and said telepathically, "This guy is a little arrogant." Jun Changshao said, "I'll teach him a lesson later." Although the Purple King had become a disciple, he still didn't have a sense of identity with the sect. It was necessary to teach him a lesson to improve their relationship. The Purple King, who was wearing only red underwear, stood in the training ground in the outer court, his face still showing the arrogance of a king. Little Long Long also walked up. Su Xiaoma, who was passing by, hurriedly came up and said, "Patriarch, are they going to fight?" "Yes," Jun Changshao said. Su Xiaoma's eyes lit up, and then he activated the group telepathic technique. In a short while, a large number of disciples gathered outside the training ground, and they were discussing in low voices. Seeing so many people watching the battle, the Purple King's face became even more arrogant, and he thought to himself, "It's time to establish my dominance." "Little Long Long, go easy on him," Su Xiaoma said. "Yes," Li Fei said. "After all, he just entered the sect, and there are so many people watching. Don't make it too ugly and embarrass him." The Purple King heard this, and his eyes were filled with anger. Huff huff, at this moment, scorching flames rose and instantly spread over a large area. Then Little Long Long, who had a human head and a beast body, walked out of the flames. Since Master said that he wanted to teach this guy a lesson, he must be in his strongest form. Seeing that Little Long Long had become neither human nor beast, the Purple King's mouth twitched. This is definitely not a five-clawed dragon. Swoosh, flames suddenly spread in front of him, and the transformed lizard had already appeared in front of him. This speed! Boom! The scorching flames suddenly burst out under the sudden vibration of the training ground, and the surrounding temperature suddenly rose. Boom! 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 Under the flames, Su Xiaoma and the others could clearly hear the sound of punches, and the cracks on the stone floor spreading outwards. Swoosh! At this moment, the Purple King flew out of the flames like a cannonball and flew high into the sky. The Sect of All Time's disciples instantly determined that this guy did not fly up by himself, but was blasted up. Bang! Little Long Long jumped out of the flames, dragging flames with its feet like a rocket propeller. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, it caught up with the Purple King. It clasped its hands together and suddenly blasted at him, only to see the other party fall rapidly like a cannonball. Seeing this scene, Su Xiaoma and the others' mouths twitched, and a trace of pity appeared in their eyes. This newcomer was too pitiful. Boom! The Purple King crashed into the training ground, and the ground instantly caved in, his entire body in the form of a swastika. Swoosh! Little Long Long floated in midair, tilted its body and raised its hands, and a gurgling burst of flames rolled around its body. Bang! Bang! In an instant, cannonballs blasted down like rain. The entire training ground was destroyed under the violent erosion of the powerful force, and the space gradually distorted under the scorching heat. Jun Changshao murmured, "Although this little guy is not hibernating, it seems to be stronger than before." "One piece, 2 pieces," Li Qingyang, who was standing next to him, silently counted the stone floor destroyed by Little Long Long and thought to himself, "It will cost a lot to repair the training ground." Chapter 747. Little Long Long, in his second form, walked out of the arena, dragging one of the Purple King's feet. The latter's entire body was charred black by the flames, his eyes rolled up, and white foam kept coming out of his mouth. When the surrounding Eternal Sect disciples saw how miserably their junior brother Zi Huan was being abused, they all looked at him with heartache. Sigh. Su Xiaoma shook his head. He had expected the outcome, but he did not expect it to be so miserable. Plop! Little Long Long threw the Purple King to the ground and said lightly, "Who is the king?" The Purple King felt a burning pain all over his body. He could no longer speak, but his eyes flashed with anger, and more than that, he was on the verge of collapse. Being sent flying by Jun Changshao's punch was enough to hurt his self-esteem. In the end, he was beaten black and blue by little Long Long. He did not establish his prestige, and today, he was completely defeated. How could he show his face in the sect in the future? It's okay, it's okay. This king deliberately let him win. This king deliberately created an illusion. With this thought, the Purple King felt much better. After failing too many times, it had refined a heart with an extremely strong endurance. Of course, little Long Long's strength also made the Purple King think seriously. Could it really be a 5-clawed dragon? No, even if it was a dragon, it could not master the fire element. Could it really be like what the patriarch said, that something went wrong during the incubation process? After being sent flying by Jun Changxiao's punch, and being tortured by little Long Long, the Purple King's arrogance was immediately restrained. Every day, he was responsible for opening the door and going to the cafeteria to eat on time. The disciples of the sect of all times also entered cultivation mode, quietly waiting for the cooldown of the life and death secret realm to end. Jun Changxiao had been thinking, if little Long Long was the future emperor of the dragon race, would the dragon race come to find him one day? That guy stole the egg a long time ago. If they wanted to find him, they would have found him long ago. The system said. Jun Changxiao said, that's true. However, the system said, host, it's better to be careful. If they really come and see little Long Long's current state, they might cut you into pieces. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. He still had the confidence to wrestle with the martial artists of the Falling Star continent, but he was definitely afraid of facing the martial artists of the upper realm. Xing Chen's enemy is in the upper realm. Now little Long Long is also related to the dragon clan in the upper realm. My sect has yet to dominate the Falling Star continent. Why are we encountering so many troublesome matters? Jun Changxiao gradually calmed down and focused his attention on the development of the sect. No matter what kind of storm they faced in the future, he and his disciples would have to face it with unyielding resolve. Lu Qianqian was also cultivating. However, when the two disciples of Taishian Xingzong appeared, she would often stand alone on the mountain peak, looking as if she had a lot on her mind. In the study, Jun Changxiao looked through the window at the distant figure floating like an immortal and murmured, is this still my eldest disciple who is indifferent to everything? Patriarch. The next day, Li Luoqiu reported, Zhua Chaochuan of Zhenyang County has started a war again. That guy really can't stay idle, Jun Changxiao said. Li Luoqiu reported other information in succession, but there was very little information about Fang Lingyu, let alone any conflicts with Lu Qianqian. This information collection is a little bad, Jun Changxiao said. Li Luoqiu said helplessly, Fang Lingyu has always been staying in Taishian Xingzong. Our spies can't infiltrate at all. Unless there are spies, it's very difficult to find out. Spies. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, that's a good idea. As the sect's prestige increased, many forces with ulterior motives would send spies. Fortunately, there were restrictions in the system, so they could not do as they wished. Since they liked to play spy, then he couldn't fall behind. There was no harm in finding some disciples with good aptitude and strength to infiltrate other sects as spies. Li Luoqiu said, Taishian Xingzong is one of the top first-rate sections. Sending spies in would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. As difficult as ascending to the heavens? The corners of Jun Changxiao's mouth rose into a smile as he said, do you think that this king would be rejected if he pretended to be one of the applicants? They won't. Li Luoqiu recognized the patriarch's strength and aptitude. If he didn't become a sect master and went to a sect as a disciple, then all the top sects would definitely fight over him. Li Luoqiu said in surprise, Patriarch plans to personally go to Taishian Xingzong as a spy and investigate Lu Qianqian. I'm just saying, Jun Changxiao said. Although going undercover in Taishian Xingzong as an applicant seemed like a good opportunity, he didn't have time to do it. If he didn't go, he would let others go. Little Mo, Jun Changxiao called Su Xiaoma over and said, eldest senior sister is being bullied. Can you tolerate it? These words were a bit off. Thinking about it was just thinking. Su Xiaoma said seriously, Patriarch, let alone eldest senior sister. I can't tolerate it if any of my fellow disciples are being bullied. Jun Changshao patted him on the shoulder and said, "So I'm giving you a glorious and difficult task now." "Glorious and difficult?" Su Xiaoma hurriedly straightened his body and said, "Patriarch, please tell me." Jun Changshao said, "I've just received news that Taixian Xingzong is about to open the mountain gate and recruit disciples. You're fast and smart. Pretend to be an applicant and sneak in to gather important information for the sect." Ha! Su Xiaoma was dumbfounded. The patriarch wanted him to be a spy. "Do you have the confidence to complete it?" "Yes." Get ready. We'll set off immediately." "Yes." That day, Su Xiaoma left the sect of all times with the disciples sending him off. After walking out of southwest Yangzhou, he took out a thin mask and put it on his face. His entire person instantly turned into a slightly pale youth. This was a magically modified facial mask. Jun Changshao was forced to buy this product from the shop when he refreshed. Not only could it be used for beauty, it could also be used to disguise one's appearance. It had even been tested. Even the Grand Elder of Extreme Coldness Palace couldn't use his spiritual sense to spy on his true appearance. It was really a must-have item for traveling and killing people. "Patriarch," Su Xiaoma said with a determined gaze, "I won't let you down." Under the setting sun, his elongated back was walking step by step on the path of being a spy. "Patriarch," Li Qingyang, who was standing at the mountain gate, couldn't help but feel a little worried. "Junior brother Su won't be in danger this time, right?" Jun Changshao said, "This kid is very sly. There won't be any danger." There were many disciples in the sect of all times who met the requirements to enter a first-rate sect, such as Xiao Ziji and Long Ziang. However, if it came to being a spy, Su Xiaoma was definitely the most suitable. Of course, before he left, Jun Changshao specially reminded him that he only needed to sneak in and find out about Lu Qianqian and Fang Lingyu. There was no need to go undercover for several years and then stand on the rooftop and say that he wanted to be a good person. Ironbone Town. On the crowded main street, a young man in a kasaya walked among the crowd. The passers-by were surprised. "Is he a Buddhist cultivator? Tsk, that's rare. Shouldn't Buddhist cultivators shave their heads? Why does he still have hair?" The crowd discussed in low voices. The monk stopped and turned to the passers-by. "I cultivate with hair. Cultivate with hair. Cultivate with hair. Aha." The pet lying on his shoulder like a cat yawned and said lazily, "Where is this place?" "Azure Sun County, Ironbone Town." He escaped from Huayang County so quickly. The monk's mouth twitched. Without a doubt, this guy was Monk Du Nan who appeared in the Southern Barren State. After he brought the spiritual cat into Huayang County, he went to convert evil cultivators whenever he saw one. In the end, not only did he not convert a single one, he angered the crowd and was hunted down. In the end, he could only escape to the nearby Azure Sun County. Chapter 748. Du Nan's appearance in Ironbone Town immediately attracted the attention of passers-by. It was mainly because Buddhist cultivators were almost extinct after the war between the righteous and the devil. It was a bit rare to see one here. The ordinary residents in the town looked at Du Nan with respect. Although Buddhist cultivators were rare, they were used in funerals and weddings, so they were respected by the people. Du Nan could walk all the way without being hungry, because he had nothing to do, and would chant Buddhist scriptures for others. Occasionally, he would open the altar and act as an exorcist monk. This was the biggest advantage of Buddhist cultivators in the Falling Star continent. Even if they didn't practice martial arts, they wouldn't be hungry. Do you feel it? Du Nan ignored the attention of the crowd. He gently closed his eyes and used his soul to feel the atmosphere in the town. He said, "This place is full of evil spirits. There must be evil spirits causing trouble in the world." The psychic cat yawned again. He always said this every time he entered a town. In the end, he would either offend people or be hunted down. He would live a life of a fugitive every day. "The old monk gave you the wrong name," the psychic cat complained. "You shouldn't be called Du Nan. You should be called Fudao." Gulp. His stomach made a sound. He said, "I'm hungry. Let's find something to eat." Du Nan looked at the Yun lion in front of him and said, Let's go to this inn to beg for some karma. Aunt Wang. A clear voice came from the inn. I'll come to help tomorrow. Yao girl, thank you for your hard work. Yao Minjing smiled and walked out of the door. But just as she walked out, someone happened to come in from outside. The two of them either leaned to the left or the right together. Ba. Dunan took a step back and made way. He put his palms together and said, Benefactress, you go first. Yao Minjing saw him wearing a kasaya and exuding a faint sandalwood fragrance. A trace of disgust appeared between her eyebrows. When she walked past him, she whispered, Damn bald donkey. Wait a minute. Dunan turned around and put his palms together. Benefactress, please look carefully. I'm not a bald donkey. I have hair. So what? Yao Minjing looked back and rolled her eyes. In my opinion, as long as he wears a kasaya, even if his hair reaches his waist, he's a damn bald donkey. Benefactress, you are prejudiced against us Buddhist cultivators. Dunan made an inviting gesture and said, Why don't you come inside and sit down? Pinsing will explain everything to you. I'm not interested in talking to a bald donkey. Yao Minjing shook her head and left. On the way, she didn't forget to add, Damn bald donkey, damn bald donkey, damn bald donkey. Dunan's mouth twitched slightly. Master. Auntie Wang smiled and walked over to smooth things over. The girl is still young and doesn't know any better. Don't lower yourself to her level. Ba. Dunan put his palms together and said, Children's words carry no harm. Pinsing will not take it to heart. As he spoke, he intentionally or unintentionally looked at the little girl, who was gradually disappearing from his sight. He said to himself, I keep feeling that something is wrong. As for what exactly was wrong, he couldn't tell. The psychic cat said, This little girl is so cute. I really want to be lifted up high by her. Sect of all times. Yao Minjing walked into the cafeteria and found a place to sit down. She put her little chin on the table, and her eyes were full of disappointment. Lu Wansher, who was busy cooking in the kitchen, called her twice. Seeing that there was no response, she walked over and said, Little junior sister, why do you look so unhappy? Senior sister. Yao Minjing was slightly irritated. I just met a monk under the town. Lu Wansher said. Did he bully you? No. Yao Minjing said. I don't know why, but when I see him, I feel irritated and have the urge to beat him up. Lu Wansher smiled and said, Is it because you are too tired from helping at the inn and are in a bad mood? You don't like anyone? Maybe. Yao Minjing tried to calm her restless mood and said with a smile, Senior sister, let me help you wash the vegetables. At night, Dunan sat cross-legged on the roof of the Yunlai Inn. The prayer beads in his hand fluctuated, and strands of golden light spread out and shrouded the whole town. Found it. He suddenly opened his eyes and locked his gaze on the Ironbone Mountain. With a solemn expression he said, There are heretic cultivators inside. The psychic cat said, This seems to be a sect. Do you want to ask around tomorrow? No need. Dunan picked it up, leaped up, and walked up the mountain. He said, Subduing demons is imminent. Feeling the whistling wind, the psychic cat howled in its heart. The journey of escape is about to begin again. Whoosh, whoosh. Dunan's movement technique was not bad. With a few ups and downs, he jumped up from the side mountain and landed lightly on the martial arts practice field in the outer courtyard. He did not pass through the mountain gate, worried that he would be discovered by others. Why do I feel that it is no different from being a thief? The psychic cat said in a low voice. Shoo. Dunan made a shushing sound. This time, he did not come to hurt the other people living inside. He only came to convert the heretic cultivators he found. Then, who did Dunan find? It was none other than Mo Shang, who was half heretic and half devil cultivator. In fact, the strongest heretic cultivator in the sect of all times was definitely the evil saint of 5 treasures. However, he hid it well, and it was difficult for Buddhist cultivators who were not high enough to find him. Whoosh! Dunan used his movement technique and walked toward the inner courtyard of the sect of all times. He was extremely careful along the way. Even when his feet landed on the ground, he did not stir up any energy waves. However, when he approached the room where Mo Shang was, Before he even got close to the window, a cold object was directly pressed against his forehead. Xiao Ziji walked out from the dark with an AWM sniper rifle in one hand. He shook his head and said, "Sneaking around in someone's sect in the middle of the night, this is not good behavior." Benefactor. Although Dunan did not know what the AWM sniper rifle was, he could smell danger. He instinctively stepped back and raised his hands, saying, "This poor monk has no ill intentions." "No ill intentions?" A voice came from behind. "Who are you trying to fool?" Dunan moved his eyes with difficulty, and tragically found that there were many people standing in the inner courtyard. They were either leaning against the door of the room, or crossing their arms with a smile on their faces. "That's not right. I have cultivated the reed crossing the river movement technique to the extreme. I shouldn't have been discovered if I flew over so silently." Dunan did not realize that when he flew from the inn to Mount Ironbone, many disciples of the sect of all times had already noticed him in an instant. He hid in the inner courtyard's room with a good sense of self. In fact, everyone was releasing their spiritual senses and quietly watching his performance. "Sorry," Dunan said. "Sorry to disturb you." Whoosh! He used the reed crossing the river movement technique. As soon as he turned around, Li Fei's right leg swept over. Bang! Dunan could not withstand such a strong force at all. His whole body flew backward like a cannonball. In the end, he used his head to slide a few feet on the stone floor. He almost lost all his hair. The psychic cat fell and saw him rolling his eyes. The corner of its mouth twitched and it broke down. "I told you, it's a miracle that you can live until now." Suddenly, it felt that it was floating. It hurriedly turned its head and saw a little girl lifting it up. She blinked and said, "What a cute kitten." "Hee hee. Little girl, you're cute too." However, boom, the psychic cat was ruthlessly pressed to the ground and intimately touched the stone floor. Xiao Maxian raised her hand and grabbed it again. Then, she continued to smash it to the ground. She said coldly, "Sneaking into the master's sect without permission, no matter how cute you are, you will be punished." Its dream during the day came true. It was picked up by the little lowly raised high, and then fiercely slammed down. Xiao Ziji and the others' mouths twitched. She had a doting look on her face just now, and then she went berserk. The character of this contract beast of the patriarch was completely unpredictable. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.